Alright, can you guys hear me? So, OBS had an update again, and I've noticed, and it has been told to me, anytime OBS has an update, it just resets your audio. All your audio settings go back to default for some fucking reason. So as such, my mic might be too loud or too low, or my sound suppression might be fucked. Let me look at that real quick. Yeah, I do think my sound suppression is not working properly right now, but I can't. That would take a while to fix, so I'll have to deal with that later. But yeah, I honest to God could not tell you why that happens to OBS. Every time they have a major update, your audio settings go back to default. I feel like that would be a very easy thing to fix, but they haven't. Anyway, back on point, it's time for Amakusa, which off memory has very low normal card damage unless he crits you, and but his MP will almost always wipe you because he removes your buffs, and AoE MP is a ruler, or Avenger, excuse me. But I may be forgetting something because it's been a long time since I fought him, but if you You can survive his NP by giving him a lot of debuffs, like NP down, attack down, those kinds of things, because he can't remove his debuffs. But I think he might get a gimmick where like he gets debuff resistance or something when you break his health bar. I don't really remember, it's been a long time. But if I had a Bond 10 Hercules, that could surely solo this, because as you say, you can't remove his guts. But I don't have a Bond 10 Hercules. Well, oh wow, you get supports in this. I almost want to not use supports because I think this will be too easy if I use one. Chat, do we use Masashi to just stay on theme? I forgot that, yeah, he's an Avenger, not a ruler, but Nobu. I forgot that you could bring a support here. We could do some solos though and just reset. I mean, this is literally the last boss, so we could mess around a bit. Fuck it, we'll do Nobu. We'll see how Nobu can solo this. She's got a Guts CE, so you basically have to use all of her survivability on his normal card damage up into the NP, and then let the crap essence tank the NP, and then we need to kill him. He needs to be dead. This is really good for her, but it's not so good with us having to deal with normal card damage for a long time. Crits are really, really good though. But I think we'll do this because this will help us not have our guts go off. This is boring with BB. Actually, BB's not even that good here, to be honest. She's okay. But like on this team, if you were wanting to get carried to make this fight a lot easier, you would not summon BB. That's like, it doesn't matter that she's counterclassing. Her damage is trash, and her toolkit just doesn't really carry you like that. You'd be way better off summoning just a way stronger DPS, or you know, or like a Hercules, just soloing it with Hercules, stuff like that would honestly make it easier. So he's got some kind of debuff immunity. That's probably mental debuff immunity, knowing this game. But we'll see. Okay, get rid of George first. I mean, I'd imagine a lot of things can solo this fight. And I'm not surprised BB can solo it because she is counterclassing, but I doubt she solos it better than like Bond 10 Herc or Summer BB. I'd imagine Summer BB does a better job. I'd imagine the number of things that can solo this is actually pretty high. Although I would imagine most of the things that solo this are probably things like Berserkers and stuff like that just, you know, rip through the health bars, you know, super quickly. Wonder if I use her second skill right now. Yeah, it makes stars the next one. There really is no single best solo unit. There's way too much apples and oranges situations where different things are promoted. It's like, oh, you want to be AoE for this. Oh, you want to be single target for this. You want to be a ruler because there's so many different classes against you. Or you want to, you know, have a you know, good normal card damage. Or you want to have anti-debuff. Like, it's all over the place. There are some obvious, you know, top dogs that work very often, right? Like Hercules, Kualter, and Kidu. You know, there's plenty of things that are, you know, very good solo units clearly, but I haven't really seen like a singular unit that's, oh, they're so clearly ahead of everybody. That just doesn't exist from what I've seen. I think we just see red press red because he doesn't really have enough health that I feel like I need to use my MP right now, so. I like how we like a crit would have been good that turn, but we didn't, with how much damage our extra attack just did, we did not need a triple crit there. But like later, if we do need a triple crit, it's probably not gonna happen. I wouldn't be surprised though if Summer BB is one of the better things to solo this, just because she has a slightly more DPS oriented kit. And I'd imagine BB and Summer BB can both, oh god, what's that one? The elephant, she probably does really good here too, because even though her buffs can be removed, I'd imagine she's so tanky that she can never die here. She is a surprisingly good solo unit. Like, she is, like, damn. I wish I had my MP right now. Let me think. Rex is gonna be mad, but I actually forgot what her third skill does. I've looked this up many times, I just forgot. I'm looking this up right now. I know part of it. I know some of what it does, but I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah. that's got the burning field thing, right? And then the sure hits. Okay. So I guess, yeah, having our NP right now would be good because we could break this health bar and then we'd have burning field and then we could do a really big normal card turn with the burning field thing. For the next health bar. We're gonna lose a lot of value because we can't do that, and I could use my attack up right now. But I don't think that would be enough. I think we're gonna have to NP this next turn if we like it or not. Unless we get lucky and we triple crit here. Nah, here we're gonna have to NP. Okay, we're gonna want stars. We've got Star Gen. Sadly, we're not gonna. If we had our NP there, we would have our Buster up next turn. We would already broken this health bar, and we'd have our Buster up next turn. I want to do Buster anyway, though. I mean, we're gonna break, but the guaranteed crit. Nah, we do Buster quick, I think. I see what you did there with the command codes, though, Rex. That's actually a good idea. That was a little bit closer than I thought, but still got quite a bit of wiggle room. And the entirety of the extra attack is going into the void. Damn, 53 stars! God damn, dude. The crit, that's not great. No. Whoo, boy! Thankfully, I think we win right now, so it's not gonna matter, but that crit scared me. I don't know why I healed for it, that doesn't do anything. This is nice, though, because even if I don't kill here, which we might not, but we might, but if I don't kill here, we have guts for the NP, and it doesn't matter. But I think there's a pretty good chance we'll crit here. Well, I guess we just move on, because I don't really think if she did this... I mean, she's good, don't get me wrong. Summer Nobu is really good. I think people underestimate her, but obviously Herc's gonna work. I don't think we need to... We don't need to prove that. That's kind of disappointing, actually. That's pretty easy with Berserkers. I don't really want to reset, because it's way harder to do that on this account. I'm kind of surprised at how easy that was. Like, that was... And I know Amakusa is kind of an overrated boss. I even think I overrated him back in the day. I thought he was harder than he was, but he really is not that hard of a boss because even if you're like a shitty team, right? Like his normal card damage is so weak. If you do like George, he's never gonna kill anyone, so you just need to be able to kill him before he NPs twice, right? And you kind of have your front row front loaded, do a bunch of damage, but then it's okay if they die, and then you have a back row that can kind of do good damage again. It's really easy, and then because you get access to support, there's like a million units that can solo this. Like, I bet you Beowulf can solo this, I bet you Herc can solo this, probably without a bond CE, honestly, it's a regular gut CE. I'm surely Hijikata can solo this, no problem. You know, I'm sure BB and Summer BB can do this, the Elephant can probably do this. There's probably a mountain of other Berserkers I'm not thinking of that could probably do it too. I mean, we literally didn't even use the guts there for crying out loud, but I will say Summer Nobu is good. Yeah, he just doesn't do that much damage, because my brother actually fought him just the other, well, it was a bit more the other day, it was like a month ago, my brother fought Amakusa, and he was like, yeah, I mean, literally the NP is the only thing that will kill you. It's like, it's so easy to never die to his normal card damage. You basically just set up, you know, as much damage as you can, and like you try to make sure no one dies before his first NP, and then that team gets their NPs off and does as much damage as possible. And then you let them all die, and then you have the back row is the same thing. You don't need anything all that fancy because he's not a ruler. I will say that fight would be a lot harder for normal accounts if he was a ruler, because then you'd have a lot less damage available to you. A lot less units would be helpful. Yeah, I saw Arcade. I saw. And I just feel like I feel like Arcade has gotten a lot more updates recently than the regular game. I mean, JP hasn't gotten anything in so long, and I'm serious. I think the next thing we're gonna get is gonna be a rerun. I think that's pretty likely. Like, it's crazy, man. JP is just dragging so hard. They haven't done anything in ages, man. Wait, who would be a Buster support that applies demonic? What? Oh, that doesn't fit her lore at all. Like, obviously that has synergy with Rama, but that doesn't really fit her lore that well. Honestly, applying demonic doesn't make a lot of sense in most contexts. You need like some exorcist that was like, you know, exorcising people that didn't actually have demons, right? And he was like, you know, making like, oh, that's a demon, right? When it's not actually demons. That would kind of fit them, I suppose. But other than that, it doesn't really work. Especially when you look at the Natsu verse and how little they've touched on demons. They're very, very, very rare. A heretic. So people are always saying that I should do this fight without using the Mystic Code. So let's try that, because that's like you know, you're interrupting the 1v1 and you're the master skills instead of them fighting each other. So let's see what happens if we try to do this without the Mystic Code. Because George makes dragons because that actually does fit with his legend. Because he most likely did not kill a dragon and he just claimed it was a dragon. He probably killed like an alligator or some shit. And he actually has like that ability in lore to mark people as with the dragon attribute. Like, I slayed the dragon, guys! When it was like an alligator or a crocodile or something. Like, we don't know for sure, as with many of the really old-timey legends, they're just too old, and their origin is just, you know, unknown to us, but a lot of the older depictions that we have really depict the dragon kind of strangely as something that you could really see was probably just an alligator or a crocodile or something like that, and they kind of trumped it up as a dragon. You know, because obviously dragons aren't real, and they were never real, so... You know, you never know. You know, it could have been a completely fabricated story, but it could have been a knight that did kill something like an alligator. Because there's been times where, you know, very big crocodiles or alligators would harass villages and stuff and make real problems. And some knight comes, because seriously, a knight that's not panicking could absolutely kill a badass crocodile or alligator, like, of course. So I know, Saber Kojiro win. And see, look. He's bronze, right? His icon thing is bronze, so it could be a bronze saber, it'd be great, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. Alright, let's get our NP ASAP, and then try to use our first... I'm trying to think if I use my first skill to get another NP, or if we want to use it to just have massive normal card damage. I think it'll just kind of depend on where we end up here. That was not as good as I would have liked. Okay, he doesn't have Piercing Vulnerability. I mean, he doesn't have Evade right now, but the fight's not going to go on long enough to use our second skill more than once. I think what we do then is we don't use our second skill, and we NP, and then we work towards getting another NP, and then if he happens to have Evade then we'll use our second skill. Because it's just as good then as it is now, because I'm not going to be able to use it twice, I don't think. But yeah, that's one of the saddest things about like the ancient world is we're just never gonna know a lot of stuff. It's gone. We get lucky with a few things sometimes, but hell though, even in some of the modern world, sometimes we're never gonna know, right? We don't always document things very well, so like, future generations may not always know what happened. Even in the modern era, which is kind of sad because our ability to document is so much better than it was back then, but we don't always use that. Maybe I need to go more damagey than I am being right now. Look at that NP gain though. Okay, that's bad because he's gonna NP next turn, and then I have to use invulnerability now or I die, and I'm not allowed to use my Mystic Code, so that's unfortunate. Basically, we have to win next turn. We might be able to do that though. We're gonna do some serious damage right here. What if Arcade gets Hawaiian shirt coup before mobile? Don't even. You know what's sad though? That's totally possible though. I mean, if you look at the history of costumes and stuff, and how much faster Arcade is with that kind of thing, it could happen. Although Ku's not even in Arcade though. That's the thing. Ku's not even in Arcade. So I feel like that's unlikely just because he doesn't even exist in that game yet, so. Why does Pierce Vulnerability affect Evade? Honestly, I don't think originally it was supposed to. I think it was an oversight with day one coding because day one coding was so bad. And obviously now they just kept it because it's what people expect. But honestly, with the way the game was at day one, I think it was an accident. Like, but now they're just running with it. So it's basically Pierce Vulnerability is just an upgraded sure hit, basically. I actually don't know why Ku's not in Arcade. But there's a lot of random things not in. There's a lot of things that are not in Arcade. Like a lot of characters aren't in it. So obviously, if I like did stun right now and then the attack up, we'd be looking good. But I'm actually gonna be happy if Kojiro wins this because there's no interference here, and it's not like I'm throwing. I'm playing well. I think we're gonna win though, just barely. I don't know. 3 of a kind bonus. See this okay. I kind of wish I'd recorded that. That was kind of epic. That was kind of an epic win for Kojiro there. I will say, we would have won if we didn't get crit so much. If he had crit us like one less time, I could have saved my invulnerability for that turn, and then we still would have lived, and I would have had one more turn. So, I mean, we didn't get particularly good luck, but, rip. So I either try the same thing and I hope I get a bit luckier, or I go more bruisery. I'm thinking we might go more bruisery. I feel like I would have gotten my NP twice if I didn't use my first skill like I did. Because we had wiggle room where I wasn't, we had an extra turn or two where I couldn't NP anyway, so I could have just used those to build up towards the next NP. Well, there's different versions of that story. That's almost assuredly that is a fictional story, right? Like, Musashi was a real person, but several of the stories surrounding him are not. And Satsuki Kojiro overwhelmingly, most likely, did not exist. And there are different versions of that story, but generally, yeah, they didn't actually have a fair sword fight. Because in a lot of the stories, Musashi believes that Kojiro in a fair fight probably would defeat him, so he doesn't have a fair fight with him. That's kind of the point of the story, right? That's kind of the thing there. But there are different versions of that story. But generally, that's the take. Is Musashi generally shows up late and uses the sun to blind him or things like that. It's normally stuff some kind of underhanded tactic to just kill him without having a fair fight. But yeah, there's no. Surely there were people throughout human history that were named Kojiro, surely. But the one they're referring to, that's this legendary swordsman and everything, as far as we're aware, was not a real person, and that story is just a fictional thing. But who knows? There's a lot of weird shit with that whole situation. Okay. We're trying to win before he NPs. You could always use your third skill, early for Stargin and that kind of thing, but I don't think so. I think I'll do this, and then almost all turns after this are going to be Buster turns. That might not have been quite enough MP gain though. I feel like if I almost get my MP but don't, that's going to really suck. Kojiro helping us out there. using my third skill there would not have been bad, because I could have gotten a lot of stars and then potentially crit here, which would have been amazing. And in Fate, this isn't, this fight doesn't play out like a lot of people think it does, right? Like, the whole reason they quote-unquote tie is because of the way their, special techniques interact with each other. Nobody was, like, stricken down or slain or anything. And the only reason Musashi quote-unquote wins the tiebreaker is because we're there. Like, that they're basically reality. This is stupid, by the way, but this is literally what happens. They're in a infinite loop. They're basically reached the root, and they're just stuck. And the reality decides to end the loop based on, like, what we decide, right? Like, what we decide to observe, right? We get to be the tiebreaker, and we get to observe what happens. And because we're on Musashi's side, we just say Musashi wins. And so then reality is like, okay, Musashi wins. But when the whole reality loopy, time warpy, endless paradox nonsense ends, Musashi is like foobar and Kojiro is totally fine. And presumably, not, no way to really know, but presumably that's because leading up to them using their special techniques, Kojiro was winning. But yeah, when their techniques collide, it just causes a paradox, and it would never end. And then us as a third-party observer gets to just decide what the outcome is. So, which is stupid. That doesn't make any sense. But that's I didn't write it, right? That's just the story, right? But I've always said, I really think, even how it is written, that really favors Kojiro as being the superior swordsman, because he has no magical abilities, he doesn't have a noble phantasm, his weapon is a regular blade, Musashi's are noble phantasms, So I think it pretty easily favors Kojiro in terms of swordsmanship, not necessarily in terms of overall power. I've always said I think Musashi in overall power is stronger. Okay, this time we're actually gonna live to use in. See, I don't think this route, the way I'm playing this time, I don't think this is any better. If anything, I'm playing worse. We're just getting luckier, and then I'm not, I don't have to use vulnerability, and I can actually save it for his NP. Like, yeah, I honestly think the way I played last time was better. I think we got more actual value last time. Like, I really think saving, because like I said, if your second skill doesn't come off cooldown, there's no difference in using it on the first NP or the second NP. There's no difference, and so you might as well use it on the one that might end up syncing up with the invulnerability. Or, I'm sorry, the evade, which is what I did, and that actually, we got value out of that. Yeah, we're literally winning this time just because we're getting luckier. I am absolutely not playing better here. I mean, honestly, from what people, like the fan translations I had seen and what I'd heard of Shimosa, I was kind of worried it was going to make, Kojiro not seem that, skilled. But after having read the official translation, I mean, I don't think Kojiro comes out of that looking bad at all. Like, not at all. Like, Musashi straight up says, in terms of swordsmanship, he's more powerful than she is. He's not even scathed. He literally walks out of the building like, okay, well, that was cool. And Musashi's, a bloody mess. And it's clear that the only reason the tiebreaker ends is because of the player character, not because of anything Kojiro Musashi does or God or, the root or whatever, right? There's none of that. So I'm fine with it. It's like, Kojiro doesn't have any magical abilities. She does. He came out looking just fine. So, no big deal. Well, we win this time. But honestly, we just got lucky on this one. It's true Musashi's been fighting other people up to that point, but she also had a lot of help up to that point. She wasn't fighting, canonically, she's not fighting those people alone, and she's not shown to be particularly damaged when she starts to fight with Kojiro. And, she's certainly not in peak shape, and, we don't know what the hell Kojiro's been doing this whole time. I guess waiting for the fainted moment, but I would say that still does not make up for, though, how much, like, the advantage that she has in having, proper magical abilities. She has Mystic Eyes. She's got, actual Noble Phantasm blades. That alone is just such a big deal because it makes it difficult for Kojiro to fight normally in things like that. So I'd say in terms of stats and magic, she's massively advantaged, but surely she's not at 100%, peak shape or anything. But I don't think that makes up for, you know, how big of a difference there is between Masashi and Kojiro on a stat front. Yeah, Masashi is Mystic Eyes. They basically allow her to like see every possibility of like the way that something could play out and always pick the option that gives her the best chance of success, basically. I'm kind of simplifying that, but do we watch this? I mean, nothing implies that Kojiro uses Masashi's blind spot or anything like that. She actually gets stronger because she lost one of her eyes for some fucking reason. But, you know, they don't, you know, yeah, they're fighting here and it goes to, you know, infinite loopy bullshit. But yeah, it's a pretty big deal. She has Noble Phantasms. Like, what she's clashing with here, she's using a Noble Phantasm. He's just using his skill. It's not like she's actually capable of doing that technique with just skill alone. She just can't do that. Yeah, and this is us picking, you know, we observe Masashi, so. But yeah, there's no, you know, there's no way she could do her technique without magic, where Kojiro can just do it because he's practiced a whole lot, because, you know, fuck logic. Anime, indeed. I'm surprised they haven't given us the costume for her eye patch. It's kind of weird. Yeah, what, I mean, if we picked Kojiro, Kojiro would have won. The thing is, no one actually won. It just ends the loop. Like, it's not like, oh, Kojiro got struck down there. That doesn't happen. It just ends the paradox. Basically, reality is like, I can't resolve this, you know, and then you dictate the resolution, right? So if you had picked Kojiro, Kojiro would have just been, you know, claimed to be the winner, but we obviously don't do that because we're on Masashi's side, and, you know, Kojiro's an antagonist, and at this point we, like, I don't even, you know, have any reason to do that, so. But yeah, you see Kojiro later, and he's totally fine. And yeah, Musashi's fucked up, and they don't, you know, they don't explain why she's fucked up, but I think it's safe to assume it's just her battle damage from Kojiro is why she's fucked up. But the thing is, you know, it's not like, there's no way around it. I mean, Masashi is really, really, you know, good, like, clearly. But I think in pure swordsmanship, I don't see how anyone can argue Kojiro's not the best swordsman in Fate right now. I don't think anyone's had any feats that show otherwise. I mean, everyone else has magic and stats and skills and all this shit. And he's literally the only person that has ever existed in Fate that is able to mimic an attack like a Noble Phantasm with just skill, right? He's the only person that's ever been able to do that. Hey, Legend, thank you for the Twitch Prime. And then, I don't know how to say the second name. That guy, I'm not even gonna try, I'm just gonna butcher it. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, guys. I am notoriously bad at names. I have no idea how to say that name, but thank you, I appreciate it. Famarino or something like that. I feel like there's a second word in there, and I'm just not seeing it because nothing's capitalized. But, this was a lot longer than I remembered. Yeah, Lancelot versus Kojiro in pure swordsmanship would be interesting, because Lancelot's also accomplished some things that no other server has accomplished. Because obviously, you know, he just hasn't taken the same route in terms of swordsmanship as all the weebs have, and I think that's kind of why he doesn't have something like Kojiro, but he's said to be, you know, pretty amazing, so that'd be cool if they did that. Now, I think if Lancelot just straight up fought Kojiro, Lancelot would win, but that's not necessarily because he's a better swordsman, it's because he has higher stats, he has a Noble Phantasm, he has really strong armor. I think Kojiro has a chance to win, but I think that favors Lancelot dramatically. But if you know, he didn't use the armor and the Noble Phantasm, and he, you know, they had the same stats, and he just fought with swordsmanship, I don't, you know, I would assume Kojiro would win off of what they have said, but we don't know that for sure. There's really no, you know, there's no feats of strength that you can, or that are really applicable that you could compare, so, you know, who knows. I'd love it if they would put that in the story sometime. That'd be really cool. Billy's is the closest thing to Kojiro we have. Billy is very close to what Kojiro does, and Billy can do his, like, triple shot without magic and stuff. So in a sense, that is the same. But his Noble Phantasm gets benefited, and it says this, like, it's stronger than it was in his life because it's become a Noble Phantasm, right? And they don't really explain what that means, but I assume that means like the actual shots being fired, you know, do the damage of like a C triple plus Noble Phantasm, right? So they're like magically charged shots that are way stronger. But Billy is capable of doing the triple shot thing through pure skill alone, right? So that is the closest thing we have to Kojiro, and I stand by this. I think Nasu did that on purpose. I very much think they intentionally made Billy this like Western, you know, cowboy mirror of Kojiro. If someone disagrees with me, I'm so interested in why, but like, it's like, they're so similar, it's nuts. They both have these techniques that are skill-based, that are attacking 3 times at the same time. You know, they both have, you know, mind's eye and that kind of thing. Like the whole cowboy versus samurai thing has been a thing for a long time. You know, they're both very, you know, skill-based instead of, you know, magical and that kind of. There's just a lot of like comparisons between the two that I think they did that on purpose. And like if you read like the descriptions that they gave Billy and like his character material and stuff about, you know, he's literally just the best, like they describe him as like the best gunman ever, right, in terms of fate. He has the best aim ever and that kind of thing. He's like the pinnacle gunman. So I think they kind of wanted to make him the cowboy, you know, foil, you know, opposite or whatever of Kojiro, which is a shame because they're probably never going to have them fight, but that would be so awesome. We're probably a lot of people think Jesse James is going to be that female gunslinger that they showed, but, you know, they haven't given the identity of yet. A lot of people think that it's going to be a gender bent Jesse James. Who knows, though? I don't know why people think that, you know, other than the star. Some people think the star, but like that's a pretty generic kind of Western symbolism at this point. But it could be, you know. It's not like if they make that a gender bent Jesse James, I'm not gonna be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm not too surprised by this. But it could literally be anyone. There's literally like 1 or 2 other female gunslingers that have existed that it could be, but they're not too famous. So I would kind of think not. So I do think it's probably more likely that they'll pick someone famous and then gender bend them. But we'll see. We'll just have to see. Also, who knows? Maybe they don't even ever reveal that gunslinger because Saber Wars was so unpopular. Maybe they don't revisit it again, right? And they're like, well, fuck all that. Although, I guess that'd be really insulting to the artist. Whoever designed that character, that's crazy insulting to do that. Because they did get around, even though their initial idea for Calamity Jane and Saber Kojiro got dropped, they eventually got around to adding them. So it'd be pretty fucking insulting to have an artist design a character for you and you don't use them. But I guess, well, I mean, they literally got the Goblin Slayer guy to design a dude, and they didn't use him either. Although he is in the game as a boss, so they kind of did. Yeah, I would love to see Billy versus Kojiro. I think they'd have Kojiro win just because, I mean, come on, they're a Japanese developer. It's the whole Japan versus America thing. You know, the whole samurai versus gunslinger thing. I've never seen a Japanese company ever depict a gunslinger like beating a samurai like that. And again, they're Japanese. They would never do that. They're gonna have Kojiro cut all 3 bullets and that kind of thing, right? There's no way. It sucks, but it'd be cool. But there's no chance. There's no chance to have Billy win that, but it would still be cool. Although logically, I truly think Billy should win because if Kojiro's attack took on Billy's head on, I think it would break his sword. And even if he did intercept all 3 bullets, he's still not going to be close to Billy, right? Like I just don't see how he's going to win that. But, you know, I think he could definitely put up a good fight and everything. But with Kojiro having a regular blade instead of a Noble Phantasm, I don't really see how he could win that, even with anime logic. I wish, and some people, I think more people know this now than before, right? But so many people just don't realize the whole reason you fold steel is because you're unable to purify the steel. Like in Europe, when they had superior craftsmanship in terms of how to forge steel, there was no need to fold the steel. It literally would be bad. It would be detrimental to the blades and armor they were making to fold it. It doesn't do anything. If there's no impurities in the metal, folding it like that does nothing. It's irrelevant, right? Folding is, though, like what Japan does with like katanas and everything. That's a good thing to do if you have impurities in your metal, right? Like that's a good stand-in for like properly forging steel. It's for what they were working with, that was a very competent way of dealing with it. But it ultimately is an inferior product, and it does folding in no way surpasses just a better craftsmanship. It doesn't work that way. But so many people think there's something about like folding steel over and over that results in it being better. Like no, it just limits the amount of it just cuts out more of the impurity. It allows you to have it closer to pure steel. And forged the way you want it, opposed to having a bunch of impurities in it, right? Like that's all it is. It's a way of cutting down on the problems. It doesn't make it better. Because steel is ultimately combining iron and I think it's like I'm not a blacksmith. I think it's coal or something. It's carbon, but like certain type of carbon, right? That you can find in coal, right? So I don't think it has to be coal specifically, but you're combining iron with carbon. And then you want to, there's a lot of, impurities and irregularities that are going to come through that process. And it can be very difficult to remove those things and get it to be pure steel. It's very difficult to do. And Europe eventually was able, a lot of European blacksmiths, not all European blacksmiths, mind you, but a lot of European blacksmiths, figured out how to do that. And they found ways to smelt it and craft it that it would be much, as a result, is much stronger. But Japan was able to get further close. When you fold it like that, it does produce a good quality metal, like no question. But it's objectively not as good. But yeah, I'm not a blacksmith, so some of the details elude me. But oh yeah, my chat was telling me to watch that Shadowversity guy on like Winterfell, and I haven't watched all of it. It's a really long video, but I started watching that, and it's pretty awesome. And it kind of speaks to what I was talking about last night about how ingenious some of the medieval designs got with like castles and stuff. Like I would not have thought of a lot of that stuff. Obviously, that Shadowversity guy knows a lot more about this than I do, and I wouldn't have thought of a lot of that nonsense, right? But it's just that's shocking. Like, can you imagine? Like, can you imagine trying to besiege a place like that is actually properly designed and everything? Like, that's just hell on earth. Like, you don't want none of that. But yeah, that was really cool. I should watch more of his stuff. Yeah, I've seen a few of his things. I was just unaware that he did stuff on like castles and fort design and stuff. I had no idea. The few things I had seen from him had been more of like sword stances and things like in how it's like practical or impractical to hold certain things, stuff like that. That's all I really had seen from him. But I honestly had not seen too much from him. He loves axes. Good man. Honestly, I find most people that are well educated on medieval weaponry and their uses generally like axes. It may not be their personal favorite, but I don't know anyone that's like an expert in this area that believes axes are like the brute's weapon of just swing it like a monkey. That no one that is like an expert on weaponry believes that about axes, right? They are a very well-designed weapon that have a lot of awesome uses and are really unique. I love them to death, man. They're fucking fantastic. Like, they have the ability to have a lot of optional tools on them that can be very useful. Like, you can literally have a mace or a hammer on the back, or and that's so useful. You can have a spear tip on the front. That's also so useful. Their design is very good for disarming people. They're absolutely if you have to be skilled as fuck, obviously, but someone that's a master with an axe. That weapon is so good at disarming people. It's horrifying, right? It's fantastic. I also like maces. I do think axes in many ways are kind of superior to maces in terms of versatility, but in terms of the pure job of what a mace needs to do, a mace is better, right? Because an axe can kind of mimic what a mace does in many respects, but it's not going to be as good. But an axe can do other things as well. But maces are a very specialized weapon, and like warhammers and those kinds of things, and they're what they're specialized for. They're fucking amazing at, right? Which is obviously, busting armor and you know, percussion damage and things like that. And they're dude, warhammers and maces are just they're scary shit, man. Because even if you're not wearing armor, they're still gonna fuck you up. It's not like they're not gonna fuck you up if you're not wearing armor. Armor is still actually, you still want armor against a mace, because an armor will make it more likely that it'll be a glancing blow, and that's the only chance that you're not going to get your skull crushed, and shit like that. Like, armor very much will help you against a mace, but it won't help you nearly as much as it would help you against literally anything else. Yeah, poleaxe is awesome, dude. It's kind of like a meme because of For Honor, but truly, if I remember correctly, it's originally supposed to be said like Paulax and stuff, but it's kind of over time just been, because kind of the way they spelled it was different, and it was originally like Paulax or some bullshit like that. But poleaxe works just fine because it is a pole, so who cares, right? Like, literally, who cares? That's the camp my brother is in, is that it's technically a poleaxe, but who gives a shit because it's still a pole and an axe, so calling it a poleaxe. And that's the way we use the language now in terms of spelling and everything, so I think it's totally reasonable to call it a poleaxe. Anyway, poleaxes are kind of amazing because they're able of doing so many things. They have a few drawbacks where, you know, they're a little bit slower than almost, like, a straight battle axe is going to be a bit faster than a poleaxe, but it's generally going to be shorter too. A straight spear is going to be a little bit faster than a poleaxe, right? A warhammer is going to be a bit faster in the field of how you could use a poleaxe to kind of mimic a warhammer. But it can do all of the things, and it's not that much slower. Like, it's not that much heavier of a weapon, and a lot of them were designed to have, like, steel rivets, and then the base would be wood, and very well, you know, tempered wood and everything. And there's this idea from, like, movies and shit that if you take, like, a sword to, like, a spear, you know, you're gonna just cut through it. No, not even close. No matter how strong you are, you would never be able to break, like, a properly made spear or poleaxe by just striking it. You'd have to strike it over and over and over and over and over and over. Like, it's not a thing. And so poleaxes can still be very swift. Paul axe? Yeah, no, not that Paul. Yeah, because poleaxes, they have pretty much all the benefits of an axe, slightly slower, but more reach, and you also have a spear, slightly slower, and then, you know, a warhammer with more reach, but slightly slower. It's just amazing, right? And then you also have a lot of benefits of a staff, right? There's a lot of other benefits to having the shaft and everything be so long and stuff. There's massive benefits to that kind of thing. All right, well, we beat Shimosa. We did that. Too bad we don't have our boy Fuma, so I don't know why we did that for, but great. I think we start Lostbelt now, unless Chad is just obsessed with making me do another Epic of Remnant, but I feel like Shimosa is overwhelmingly the hardest one for an account in the situation that we were in. That was probably one of the hardest things we could have done, and, you know, of course, that's what Chad wanted, you fucks, and so now I think we can get a little bit of Lostbelt action in, so hopefully when an event comes out that's Lostbelt locked, maybe we'll have that Lostbelt finished. They're all over the place in which Lostbelt it is, and I always say if they're gonna make something Lostbelt locked, they should just make it Lostbelt 1. As long as you know what Lostbelts are and stuff, who cares? Like, literally, who cares? Do our Garther and read the story, oh god. I feel like that story could be funny if you had, like, I've always wanted to do this, but schedules didn't allow. I've always wanted to, like, get some people I know, like Cairo and my brother, because my brother is really good at acting and whatnot as well. And anyway, you get, you know, people together and you assign, like, you read through one of the stories, especially one of the sillier stories, and you assign different people to voice the different characters. You know, each person would have to voice like 3 or 4 characters, if not more. But that could be a lot of fun. I really think that could be a lot of fun, but I've never been able to get that to work because of schedules and everything. And to make it smooth, you would kind of need to be playing through the story live and not using my room. My room would make it very difficult to kind of keep context and everything, so I kind of need an account for it. But I think that could be a lot of fun. I actually would be okay with voicing Wu and Mev and stuff. I've always said it, I would voice them like tobacco truckers, right? Like, you give them, like, the really, you know, fucked up voice, like they've been, you know, that I would just voice them like that. You know, I try to voice everything else, you know, at least somewhat seriously, but all the thoughts and stuff I would voice like that. I'm not gonna, that's like because that's like the joke that I would do those characters, right? But so I would just do that kind of shit with it, so. But yeah, I've wanted to do that, but it'd be very difficult to organize, and you might need a degree of practice and prep and everything, so it'd be hard to do. But I think it would be kind of awesome, especially because, like, my brother's really talented with that kind of stuff. And you'd want to pick a story that's a bit of a shit show, right? I think that'd be more fun if you pick a story that's a shit show. Our MASH is not 10-10-10. I think this is one of the first accounts that has done this, other than the 1 to 3 star account, I suppose, where we're not 10-10-10. This trash mob is pretty badass, man. I really wish he was playable. Blatantly inspired by Bloodborne, though. Like, you cannot tell me, because Nasu is well known for being a huge FromSoft fanboy. He's like notoriously a FromSoft fanboy, and like he straight up said he was like playing Bloodborne nonstop for a really long time and everything. There's no way these guys were not influenced by that. There's no chance, absolutely no chance. Like they have like the kind of axe that they have and everything. Like these guys are blatantly from Bloodborne, man. My match is not 10-10 on my level 150. That's pretty shocking, but I'm guessing. Well, you probably have alternative units that you don't really need to use it much, I would imagine. But it's very common for her to be 10-10-10, obviously. 1 second, I need to get water. Alright, I'm back. Alright, chat. Do you think they're ever gonna add, in any meaningful way, because they've been mentioned and stuff here and there, but in any meaningful way, do you think they're gonna use Irish deities, right? Like old Irish deities? Or are we ever gonna, see them more proper? Like, we've seen Zeus and everything. Because they've mentioned them. It's not like they haven't been mentioned. They've been mentioned, but no. I think there's a chance because wow, look at this. Everyone thinks no. I think maybe yes because maybe not soon, but they don't use Irish and Celtic stuff nearly as much as like Japanese stuff and Chinese stuff and whatnot. But they seem to favor it a fair amount. They seem to like them some Irish and Celtic mythology and stuff. So I think it can happen. I mean, we got quite a few stuff from them. I mean, they use them kind of weirdly. I'll definitely say that. Like, they fuse Fionn with Scath for some reason, and they haven't really. They keep injecting them into things instead of focusing on them, I would say. So, but I think it can happen. I agree they're not well known. Arjuna, but they've still mentioned them regardless, and I mean, they've clearly used things that aren't well known. Sometimes they go out of their way to use things that are well known. Like, Quetz is not well known, but she got used kind of, or he really, but because they seem to favor a lot of Celtic stuff, I think it could happen. I think like Loth and stuff could happen. I don't know if it would happen soon, and I don't feel as confident in that being used as maybe some of the more popular stuff. Sure, but I could see it happening. You think Quetz is more well known than Celtic gods? I mean, obviously I have my own upbringing and areas of history that were kind of put in front of me more. But to me, I think now I definitely agree that like the Celtic stuff is definitely less. Okay. Especially like 10 into 20 years ago, I think Celtic mythology was almost completely unknown on a global, like mainstream, viewpoint, right? It was almost completely, it was not in the public's consciousness at all. But I feel like it's definitely had a resurgence in the last 5 to 10 years, I would say. And I think it's gone from being almost completely unknown to the mainstream to, it's no Greek or Norse. Or Egyptian, of course not. But I don't know. I feel like Quetzalcoatl, Aztec stuff and all that stuff. I think people know who the Aztecs were and stuff like that, but I don't think they really look into that region's history and mythology at all. Like, I know when I was younger, I didn't. You know, I did when I got older, but I didn't know who the fuck Quetzalcoatl was when I was younger. But that could just be me. I also didn't know anything about Celtic mythology either. But I guess I have my own bias because I didn't know about Celtic mythology in any meaningful capacity until I was like a teenager. And then I liked it so much that I looked into it like a motherfucker, and it's now one of my favorite things. And obviously that's not going to be most people, but I do see it pop up a lot in the last 10 years or so. I have seen it used so much more than it used to be, right? And mentioned more than it used to be. I think it's had a real resurgence. I would say 10, 20 years ago, I would say Quetzalcoatl is probably more known. But I think in the modern day, I think Celtic stuff is more known now. I mean, I agree. If you go out on the street and you start like interviewing random people on the sidewalk, most of them are not going to know, Loth or anything, or however you say I know her name is an older version of Morgan, basically. I don't remember how to say her name though, but they're not going to know those figures, right? But I don't think they're going to know Quetzalcoatl either, right? I really don't. I feel like most people aren't going to know either. So yeah, I don't know. I think she was a pretty damn niche thing to pick. I think they're both a bit, under the radar. But I think I think as the years go on, I think Celtic mythology is going to, kind of maintain its presence and get more prevalent. It seems to be catching on. I tell you though, the Aztec stuff, that whole region, not just the Aztecs specifically, but the other tribes and everything in that era, that's a really interesting part of history, and I've only recently kind of started to research it more. It's wild because I can't think of another time in history. We've had some times that are similar and close, but I cannot think of another time in history where, for the Aztecs specifically, not the other tribes, but the Aztecs specifically, they were basically genocided and deleted, right? Of course, there were a few survivors and they just got absorbed by the other tribes and stuff, but that is one of the only times that we've had an entire, group of people that large, because they were a big fucking empire, but their main city was in, it was built in such a unique way on top of the water and everything that they could not escape, right, to any meaningful degree. I'm sure a few did, but they were literally trapped in this, mega city of theirs, and they were just completely wiped out, because of the other tribes and the Spanish and disease, and they were just, it's one of the only times that we have where you have an entire group of people that was almost completely eradicated. Honestly, they were going to be eradicated though, even if it wasn't for the disease. They were screwed. They were screwed because they did not have a way to escape, and they had pissed off everyone. Because even if they had somehow beaten back the Spanish invasion, which honestly, even without the, I don't think they could have done that, because yeah, the disease damaged them greatly, but they were only able to fight defensively that entire time. I don't think they would have ever been able to go on the offense and get rid of them. More Spanish were going to be on the way. That was a very small Spanish, fleet. Ultimately, they were going to bring in backup. There was just, Spain wanted that land, right? They wanted a foothold in this land, and that they had the manpower to make sure that happened. I do not think the Aztecs were getting out of that really in any. And a big part of the problem was because they had pissed off every other tribe, all of them. Everyone hated them. So much so, right? Because they were literally, going around, defeating and sacrificing the people of all the other tribes and civilizations and stuff in the area. Everyone was so happy to get rid of the Aztecs. Literally, everyone jumped on board to team up with the Spanish to help them get rid of them. So I don't think they had a way out of that. I think their time had come. Yeah, maybe they could have held on longer if it wasn't for the disease and stuff. But I think they were doomed. I think the way they had built their city and their history with the other tribes and everything, I think they were done for them. Because I think I see a lot of people talk about how the flu and everything wrecked them, and it definitely damaged them. But they got very decimated just by cannons and all that kind of stuff. And again, it wasn't even that big of a Spanish force yet, so I think they were done though. Most people know about Spain instead of Mexico, I would say. I think some people don't. You have some people that don't know the difference between Spain and then Mexico and all that stuff. And I think some people just slip of the tongue they kind of, you know, they just kind of conflate the two. Just and fair enough. I don't think that's, you know, it's okay to not be super educated in that field, and it's not like they mean any harm, and it's just a slip of the tongue. And most people are aware of that, you know, Spain, and they kind of just forget for a second, and they kind of confused because, you know, people from Mexico speak Spanish, and they just kind of forget for a second, right? And so you people, you know, calling English American and things like that. You know, it's just a slip of the tongue sometimes. It's not that big of a deal. But there are some people, I think, that they literally don't know about Spain, right? Like, there are some people out there that don't, have no idea what Spain is and the history of Spain and everything. But yeah, the whole Aztec situation is a really unique thing. It's wild though, because like, in terms of where the Aztecs were technologically compared to the rest of the world, they were actually very behind. But in terms of how developed their region was, they were way ahead of their time, right? They were, technologically, they were way ahead of like all the other tribes and stuff in the area, and they were advancing much faster than everyone else in the area, but they were way behind where the rest of the world was, which was a big, you know, part of why you know, they had an issue with the Spanish, because the Spanish were just so technologically ahead of them. But it's pretty amazing what they were able to accomplish with where their region was technologically, what they were able to accomplish and everything in terms of architecture and that kind of thing is really impressive. They were also batshit insane though, but that was part of why they were able to do so well, is because the whole blood sacrifice nonsense in their religion and stuff, it got all of their people on the same page. It got them all working towards the same causes and putting all of their resources and effort into the same causes. And that was very practical to them, and it allowed them to use their resource and manpower and knowledge in a very, you know, I don't know, meta way, if you will, and that was a big reason why they were just blowing up. I mean, they were blowing everyone in the region out of the water in terms of their, you know, engineering feats and those kinds of things. I mean, they were so far ahead. It's really fascinating, though. It's one of my, I don't know how to describe this really, but this is something I truly enjoy, is the development of the world in terms of like technology and like engineering understanding, but globally, not just region specific. It's so fascinating when you look at like, you know, gunpowder's discovery, you know, it was independently discovered by several different civilizations, and then the different ways they applied it, and then like what was causing certain regions to start like advancing technology faster than other regions. Like ultimately, I would say, if you look at it like an arms race, you know, you got, you know, Asia and all these different regions and stuff. If you look at like how they're technologically advancing, I think it's hard to deny that Europe ultimately won at the end of the day, and Europe ended up being the region that ended up influencing the world, I would say, pretty much more than any. You know, America is ultimately an extension of Europe, and you know, they started influencing Asia and in India and, you know, everywhere. Europe basically just got ahead of everyone, and they started influencing the world on such a global scale. It was nuts. And a big reason for this, in my view, you know, in my opinion, it's because they were just at war all of the time. War breeds invention like you wouldn't believe, and Europe was just this constant, even if they weren't in full-fledged war, they were in skirmishes and shit all of the time. I mean, all of the goddamn time. It is absolutely ridiculous, the amount of conflict that went on in Europe, right? Like, it's nonsense between the big countries, the small countries. You had, like, you know, a lot of mercenary countries and shit, and this you know, made so many people, you know, on a blacksmithing front, on an architecture front, you know, just advance, and they ended up getting really ahead of people. And then obviously their ultimate practical implication of gunpowder, I would say, is what ended up making them influence the world so much. And in many ways, negative ways. You know, I don't want to shit on Europe. A lot of, you know, they contributed a lot of good things to the world, but Jesus Christ, because they got so ahead of everybody, and you had the British Empire and France and everything, they got so ahead, and they started, you know, influencing a lot of regions in, I would say, very negative ways, because those regions weren't ready for that kind of stuff, and there was a lot of problems there. And then they spread, you know, disease and all these other things. So there's a lot of negative consequences to Europe getting ahead of everyone so much. But there was positives too. It's not a pure bad thing. But there really is no denying that in the arms race and the human understanding of like technology, Europe ended up winning, I would say, and then they shaped the modern world. I think it's impossible to deny that the European countries shaped the modern world. Like, you know, America, modern China, and Japan, and Russia, and everything. Overall, a lot of our technology comes from the core discoveries from Europe, and a lot of our even culture does. We don't even realize it. Like a lot of standard stuff that we've kind of adopted in terms of what's professional and what's not professional and stuff is so heavily influenced by Europe specifically. It's wild. Like I said, you know, it's debatable if it's a good or a bad thing, but it's fascinating to see how you have these different regions, you know, discovering different things and techniques and you know, advancing their technology, and it all kind of, you know, culminates in, you know, kind of where the world settled in the modern era. Because I will say, I'm sure there will be, you know, more disturbances as humanity goes on and stuff, but, you know, it's hard for the world to get shaken up in the same way that it had in the past. Oh man, the Mongols, that's some interesting history right there. But it's hard for the world to have the same kind of shakeups that it could have had, that it had in the past. They don't really happen anymore, and a big part of that is because now established countries don't wage war against each other anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. And it's a big part of that is because of nuclear warfare, and it's not practical anymore. Now it's all about like, you know, taxes and tariffs and shit, right? We have trade wars now because it's more practical, right? It ultimately gets the job done better. There's not much practical use of arms anymore. It's not like Russia needs to like take land from China anymore, right? That doesn't matter anymore, right? It's so that kind of warfare doesn't happen much. It could still theoretically happen if somebody does something crazy like assassinating a world leader or like a great power, you know, has a national disaster, like you know, or a natural disaster that forces them to have to try to invade someone else or something. But really, war between first world countries doesn't really exist anymore. And a big part of that, again, is nukes and the way the money works now and everything. It doesn't happen anymore. So we're kind of, the modern age is kind of, you know, the cultures that we have are kind of here to stay for the most part. I'm sure there'll be some fluctuations with time and maybe natural disasters. Natural disasters could definitely shake up, you know, the way humans are structured and everything. But yeah, we don't really have the kind of shakeups that we used to have. We're not going to have these breakthroughs like with the influence like the British Empire had in all these other regions. You're not going to really see that anymore. So the race is kind of over in a way. But it's fascinating to see, like, you know, how the countries in their younger days and the cultures in their younger days, like which ones, because some didn't survive. That's what's kind of sad, is a lot of cultures got, you know, stamped out for one reason or another and things like that. But then the ones that did survive, you know, what shaped them to be what they are now, and you know how developed did they get kind of when this, you know, era began and everything. It's really fascinating stuff, and it's one of my favorite things about history. And then America's just weird because America kind of was founded after a lot of this stuff kind of wasn't completely settled, but was fairly settled. It's, you know, it's this major country that it's one of the only countries that is. It was kind of founded after that you know, ancient history was kind of, you know, coming to a close, if you will, and so it's kind of weird, and that's why some people say America has no culture, but I don't really agree with that. You know, I think America's culture is definitely different than the rest of the world's culture and whatnot, but I think America still does have culture, especially because it is a kind of a one-of-a-kind country. Well, you have Canada too, it's pretty similar. But, you know, in North America in general, just North America, right? Like a lot of people act like North America doesn't have culture, but it does, right? It's shorter culture, but that kind of leads into what it is, and, you know, it still had, you know, founding, and it still had, because most of, you know, countries, you know, mythology comes from their founding and whatnot. I've talked about that before. So I think America still 100% has culture, and it's still, a lot of its culture is influenced by other cultures, but that's every culture ever. You know, we don't have, sure, there was proto-humans and all that, but we don't have any record of that. So, I mean, all cultures lead back to, you know, previous ones and whatnot. It's just we don't really have those kind of shakeups anymore. Canada's just America, but colder. I mean, yeah, they are kind of, there's sometimes bad blood between them, and especially on the government side. But I, in my opinion, I'd say overwhelmingly, and I actually really like this. I really feel like the common man of Canada and the common man of America are pretty much brothers, and I think we get along very well. We have our jokes and our hockey competitions and our those kinds of things. And sometimes our governments get at it with each other, but I honestly don't feel like our governments really represent the people very well anymore. And I think overwhelmingly it's like it's so easy. There's a reason why it is so easy for like a random person from Canada and a random person from America to get along well and be able to be on the same page and stuff. And it's because they do have shared culture. And people act like we don't have one, but we do. Where it can be harder from people from other countries to get along with Canadians or Americans. Where it's so easy for us to get along. Like it's so easy. There's basically there's almost no cultural divide, right? So and it's kind of cool to have these two countries that kind of have that kind of kinship and stuff. It's kind of nice. It's like having a cultural brother. I mean, of course there's differences, there's minor differences, but honestly, I think a lot of the political nonsense that people prescribe to America is bullshit. I've seen this a lot, and this really annoys me, because I am American, and I'm not ashamed to be an American, but I'm not like, oh my god, America's the best either. But I find that the media, and not just like European media and that kind of thing, but I mean American media and everyone, they misrepresent America greatly. I do not think the American media actually represents the American people well in the slightest. They go out of their way to sensationalize things and to focus on the groups of people that are, overly zealous about politics and stuff. When you actually go around to the actual states and you talk to actual people, most people in America or the United States are not like that at all. Like, not even a little bit. It bothers me that I feel like the global stage sees America as this ridiculous, divided, like SJWs versus Trump supporters, right? Which that's like the zealous Trump supporters. That's not America. It's not. When you actually go around to our different states and cities and actually talk to people, it's nothing like that. It's not even remotely like that. And it annoys me because when you watch YouTube videos or something and you see how the other countries are reacting to American media, they're acting like that's America and all these stupid Americans and blah 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 blah, and it's like that's just not fair. That's just not fair, and it's wrong. And it's like I really appreciated that Stephen Fry, he did a documentary a long time ago where he just went to the different states and just went and talked to people and went to the different towns and cities in these different states, and you really saw how diverse America is, but then how way more grounded and less ridiculous they are. It's like the media portrays it as just because the media makes money off of sensationalizing the radical, the political droolings of people, right? That's not I find the overwhelming majority of Americans find all the political nonsense that goes on in America and the media and all the SJW versus zealous Trump supporter stuff to be tiring, dumb, and a waste of time. I truly find that to be the attitude of most Americans. And yeah, there are some overzealous people, sure, but that's in all countries. And I think similar things happens to Koreans. I really think Koreans get mischaracterized a lot, and they get overly sensationalized and everything. People act like they're freaking out over everything all the time and getting offended by everything all the time. But when you actually talk to normal Korean folk, that's not really the case. And also, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to get into any specifics because I don't think I see no reason to get into political specifics on my stream because it doesn't matter. It's not important. I think most people believe what they believe because they think it's the best thing for people, right? And good enough. People can disagree, right? And think, oh, this is a good idea, it's a bad idea, or whatever. But I think it's fair to say most people believe in whatever political alignment they have because they think it's the best thing, right? So there's no reason for me to get offended, upset, or mad at anybody. And there's no point for me to get into like the specifics of what I think is right or wrong. That's just pointless. But yeah, there are people that, are in America that are obviously very politically motivated and whatnot, but I think that's every country ever. And I think there's a lot of people that are not like that, so. Because, and there are obvious problems in certain countries, like America has its problems, no question. But they also have their benefits. You see a lot of people like, oh, your healthcare is terrible, and it's true. There's a lot of problems with the American healthcare system, but there comes with other benefits in other areas and stuff. So it's just, it's kind of pick your poison, I would say. I mean, I know a decent amount about castles, but I'm not an expert in and meta castle nonsense. Like that Shadowversity guy clearly knows more about that kind of shit than I do. But I mean, I know some, I know the basics. I can definitely tell a shoddy, bullshit fantasy design from a practical stuff. Like last night, like the way they were not taking advantage of their natural moat. That was a rather obvious, derp. And I know about how battlements work, and and how you need to be able to, shoot sideways. And I understand those kinds of things. But a lot of the more like the really meta stuff, I'm not educated enough in that field. I could get more educated, I suppose, but right now I certainly don't have the knowledge of some of that stuff. I have not. I don't even know what those are off the top of my head. Sometimes I have a tendency, though, of forgetting like a popular show or whatever that's like going around, and I just forget the name of it, even though I'm aware of it. But off the top of my head, I have no idea what that even is. But yeah, I need to watch more of that guy's stuff. Seems pretty cool. Do you need to win this fight? I don't think you need to. I think you need to break the first health bar, I think is what you're supposed to do. I think we have mash taunt, so she'll die, and then it cancels the enemy's turn, and we won't have Da Vinci get wrecked. By the way, Da Vinci's about to die, and this is the last time we see her. And obviously we have Lolly Da Vinci, but although it shares the memories, is actually a different character, so regular old Da Vinci about to exit the stage. Feels bad, man. And honestly, I really do think that Lolly Da Vinci's not gonna survive all of Lostbelt either. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched a lot of like history-focused YouTubers. I'm sure there's plenty of good ones because there's a lot of educated. There's nothing stopping someone from being really educated on a topic and just sharing that on YouTube, right? For God's sakes, we have doctors now. We have like full-fledged, well-experienced doctors now that have YouTube channels and just talked about health-related stuff, which is awesome. It's great. It's fantastic. I just haven't watched. It's not because I don't want to or anything. I just haven't had the time. I'm mostly. And I just happen to have a lot of real-life people that I know personally that are historians or work in the history field or work in like history museums, and my brother has worked in several fields in history and stuff. So I haven't had a lot of need. I normally am capable of reaching out to an expert in some kind of field, thanks to my my life and people I've met, and in my YouTube presence and everything. I've been able to meet a lot of experts on a field. So I just haven't bothered to check a lot of stuff on YouTube, but there's good stuff for sure, and I've seen some stuff on YouTube. Actually, last night I was watching some saber experts. They were experts on saber fighting. Now, sport saber fighting, it's not straight medieval nonsense. Because, well, you don't really use sabers in medieval times, but they were experts in the saber fencing. Not fencing though. Saber fighting. And that was fascinating. There were two experts, and they had some like clips of them actually sparring and going at it, and then they also were just talking about the art and everything, and that was fascinating, man. That was really interesting. I much prefer saber fighting to fencing because both, especially the type that they're doing, is definitely more sport oriented than anything practical, but I think it makes a better sport, and it also has more practical application than fencing does. I don't hate fencing, but in all those kinds of oh god, gotta mute this shit. We'll get actually we're probably gonna copyright it anyway. These things get visually copyrighted. This is so bullshit, by the way. Oh, here, I can do this because I can't skip this. I literally cannot skip the opening. And they normally get visually copyrighted even if you mute them, which I don't know why. I can't understand, like, what you don't. I cannot, dude. Some companies, although I am not sure. I don't think Aniplex, DW, or Type Moon are actually the ones that have filed the automated claims for these openings. I think it's a third party that's just trolling, and unfortunately YouTube does not do a good job of managing those kinds of things. Because like if you look at the claims, they don't make any sense, and there's just no reason. Generally, companies like that, these are basically trailers, right? And companies are generally happy to have trailers, out and about. And at most, they'll claim the ad revenue from the video, but they won't prevent the video from existing, right? Where I've had a lot of issues with like the Lostbelt openings where they get DMCA'd in a way that you can't even post them. It's not that the company is forcibly monetizing them and taking the money from them. It's that you can't even post them. And overwhelmingly, I think that's not. I don't think that's Aniplex. I don't think that's DW. I think that's a troll. And it's because I've had run-ins where like Moriarty's slow-mo in P was visually copyrighted by claimed to be by Namco Bandai, which Namco Bandai has no connection with FGO in the first place, right? That's obviously somebody that's not actually. They're not actually associated with Namco Bandai, and they're not actually associated with Aniplex. It's nonsense, right? And I think it's the same thing with. Yeah, only slow-mo. I think it's just, shenanigans. But to this day, that stream where I showed the Lostbelt opening, but I muted the music, I still can't post that video on YouTube because it's visually copyrighted. And again, not generally what like Aniplex will do is they'll just forcibly monetize your video and they benefit from the profits, right? That's normally what they do. They don't actually prevent you from posting it because it doesn't make sense to not allow people to post your hype piece. The point of a trailer and a hype piece is for people to see it and get hype about the product, right? There's no point in blocking those kinds of things. That's counterintuitive. One thing I hate though, I dislike when companies though forcibly monetize your videos in a way that like disrupts your video. Like whenever my videos get forcibly monetized, a lot of times they forcibly put mid-rolls in the video. I don't care if they want to monetize my videos and take the money. That doesn't bother me so much. It depends on the context though. I mean, sometimes it would bother me, but what bothers me is when they forcibly put mid-rolls in the video. And that happened to my fucking Guadia video, and I hate it so much because, it kills the pacing of the video. Like, it's the human form Guadia video, one of my human form Guadia videos. I was so proud of that video, like I liked the editing and everything. I was, something I want to remember like the story by, and it has forcibly put mid-rolls on it. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't care if they want to monetize it, but just put the ads at the start and the end, right? So the video is not disturbed, right? I hate that, but it is what it is. And sometimes the claims are bullshit and you can dispute them, but a lot of times it's not worth it. So. Yeah, I know Twitch is probably gonna get mid-roll ads. I'm so annoyed with that. Like, I get paid for those, but I don't care. And I'm not trying to sound like some altruistic, benevolent streamer here. It just doesn't matter. I'm a very lucky guy. I've been able to achieve a very, financially stable and everything. So I have no need for extra ad money. I don't give a shit. I'd rather just have a good time and have good streams. I don't want, and because the problem with mid-rolls on Twitch is they're not universal. It's not like everyone's getting a mid-roll at the same time, and my chat can be like, hey, Green Man, hold up a second, we're having to watch an ad. It's going to be random. Different people are going to be seeing ads at different times, so we could be in the middle of fighting, like, we could be fighting Zeus, right? Remember when Zeus first came out? Remember it was new, right? And I was fighting him? Imagine that, and then LOL, random mid-roll for, 20% of the people in the chat. That's stupid. And then they're like, oh, but if you have a key, they literally said this. They sent this stuff out to like their actual Twitch streamers and stuff. They had like this whole article on like, what you can do to prep and bullshit. And it's like, they're like, oh, but if you've got like a key moment coming up, then you should run your own mid-rolls, and that'll make it so you won't get any forced mid-rolls for a set amount of time. But it's bullshit, because you're not gonna know when something spontaneous is gonna happen. And the ratio is nonsense. Last I heard, now this may have changed, but last I heard, it was like 3 minutes of ads was like 30 minutes of no forced ads. So for 1 minute of ads is 10 minutes of no forced ads. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's awful. I have a button here. I literally have a button here where I can start playing ads right now. I have never clicked it in my entire time streaming. And again, I'm not like some benevolent streamer here. It's just, there's no point. I don't need the money. Twitch certainly doesn't need the money. They make money off of all the subscribers and everything. So this is just stupid. This is I don't think this is a good business move from Twitch's perspective. This is a short-term money grab. I think this is going to hurt them financially in the long run because I think it's going to drive more people to YouTube streaming and shit like that, right? You need to provide a good service, and especially because there is a lot. Every company and their mother right now is chopping at their bit, to get in on that pie. They want a piece of the action for this streaming nonsense, right? And YouTube right now is really the only one getting anything done. Facebook and all these other companies aren't doing a very good job getting in on the streaming turf. But a big part of that is because of there's no need for it right now. But YouTube is doing really well. But if Twitch starts providing a shitty service, people are just going to migrate to other platforms that provide a better service. I don't think people have that much loyalty to Twitch specifically. They have loyalty to certain streamers, maybe. But if those streamers just switch platforms, and if as a whole there's not that many good streamers on Twitch anymore, it doesn't make sense. There's no need for this mid-roll thing. There's no point for it. Like, Twitch is making plenty of money. Streamers are making plenty of money. It should, making it an option, sure. If a Twitch streamer wants to turn it on as an option, fine. But as a forced thing, I think it's a terrible idea. And I'm not being like benevolent. Oh, I'm too good for money. I don't need the money, and I don't want my streams being worse because there's ads everywhere. I don't want that, right? Yeah, I do agree. Twitch emotes are good. I do. I think that's one of the main reasons Twitch is still doing as well as they are. Is they handle the emote system a lot better than YouTube does. YouTube's getting better at it, but they still have a way to go. Yeah, I remember Justin TV. I remember that. Yeah, Discord fucking destroyed Skype, man. Like, just absolutely destroyed them. Okay, did we beat the prologue? I think we did. Like right now, YouTube streaming has still got a ways to go, and it's a bit wonky, but it's already been more successful than all the other streaming platforms aside from Twitch, and it's keeping up with Twitch just fine. And I think if Twitch screws the pooch, I think YouTube could overtake them, no problem, no problem. And I have an invested interest in Twitch, obviously, because I stream here and everything. So I don't want Twitch making bad business decisions. I don't say this because I hate Twitch or I want Twitch to go to hell or anything. I want Twitch to be successful because it makes my life easier. So I'm not looking forward to Twitch making bad business calls. I know VTubers are like all the rage right now, but I've literally never even watched one. I don't really know what that's even about, to be honest. But I don't have a problem with it. I have made sure throughout my life, and it'll get harder as you get older, but I've made sure throughout my life that I don't become that guy. I don't want to be granddad, not keeping up with the times with oh, you kids in your music or you kids in your video game. I don't want to be that guy. Now that being said, I think a lot of new media may not actually be for me, but I'm never going to be that kind of. I don't want to be that kind of guy that poo-poos on everything that the kids are into these days, right? Like there's no need for that. I like seeing technological advancements and the way media is shaped and that kind of thing. And in my opinion, how I've always seen it is, even if something's not for me, if there's a demand for it, there's a reason there's a demand for it, right? Like if there's a large ass audience for a new trend or fad or style of thing, there's a reason that there's an audience for it, right? And I'm not gonna try to poo-poo on everybody that is part of something like that. I don't know much about how this whole, as far as I'm aware, VTubing is basically being an anime character but you're vlogging or something, right? That's my best knowledge of it, but I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. It's not really my thing, but I don't care. Like, it doesn't, there's no reason for me to hate on people that like that kind of thing, right? What's the harm in it? Literally, what's the harm in it? Anime avatar, yeah, that's what I've kind of seems like it is to me. Is you kind of, it's kind of like anime voice stuff with an anime avatar, and you just do things, right? But that's fine. Sure, why not? It doesn't bother me. It would bother me if it got really predatory, right? Like you start trying to blur the line between reality and fantasy and that kind of thing, and you start to take advantage of vulnerable people and. But that's more of an individual gripe than a genre, right? Like, if an individual is behaving in a predatory manner, I'll take issue with that specifically, not the whole concept of it. I literally don't know a single VTuber. I could not tell you a name of any of them. I have no idea. I have not even looked into it. And I didn't realize it was as big as it was. And I'm only now starting to realize that it's a big thing because I keep getting, I've had people ask me on my Discord, do you watch VTubers? And I was like, what? I didn't really even understand. And then I've started to see things like the Epic 7 collab, and then like my chat talking about it now and shit. So I've kind of just learned over the last like month that it's like a big thing, but I didn't really even know, to be honest. I knew of like a person that did that, and I didn't realize it was a genre, and I didn't really remember what that person's name was, but I know there was like a person that like had the anime avatar and did like the voice acting and everything and kind of played up a character. And I was like, okay, that's cool, you know, that's their shtick, right? I didn't realize this like had become a genre until very recently. All right, let's see. The thing is, I would never do something like that because not only is it not really my style, but because I'm not an actor. I don't have any acting ability, right? I've never even tried. I feel like if you were going to do something like that, you need to have a degree. You don't necessarily have to be amazing at it, but I'd imagine to be very successful at it, you would need to be a good at acting to some level, right? Which I am not, and I've never even tried. So it does not even make sense for me to do anything in that genre. Also, I can guarantee you, tell me if I'm wrong, chat, because I'm uneducated in this field, but off of my knowledge of humanity and you fucks, I can guarantee you the top. I don't know how many there are, but let's say the top, 80 or 100 or whatever. They're all women. They're all women. I can pretty much guarantee you there's probably like 2 popular guy VTubers out there, and they're probably not nearly as popular as all the women. So I don't think I would have any chance in this field to begin with, right? So or males with voice changers. Yeah, see, I think you could do it though. I think there would be room for somebody that was really good at acting. And they'd have to focus on a different, style and a different, like the kind of like games they're playing or whatever. You'd have to kind of change the focus. But I think a guy could totally do it. You would just have to, you'd have to be smart about it. You'd have to think outside the box, right? Like I think it could be done. I think there's room for like that kind of, persona type thing. And I think there's are types of like that where a guy could be successful. And there probably are some like that, but. It'd be a lot harder, and again, you'd have to be very smart about it. I don't think it'd have to be a trap at all. Like, I'm telling you, imagine if, like, the voice actor for Achilles, right, kind of put on, and obviously he's not, trying to fool anyone, he's literally, acting, right, but then he plays, like, interesting video games that a lot of people like and whatnot, and kind of has that persona. I think that would be popular as fuck, honestly. I think that would... You just have to do the other side of the business well. You have to do a good job at the gameplay. You have to have a good, like, video quality. You'd have to market yourself well. You're not going to be carried on the feminine factor, right? You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to... The other side of the business, you're going to have to do... Now, for it to be a really successful female one, too, you're going to need to do that as well. But you can at least get somewhere, I would imagine, just through, basically, having basic acting and being female, right? Where if you're going to be trying to do, like, a guy style of it, you're going to have to, really do well on like, marketing yourself and everything. But I think that would work, honestly. I think that would work. But it would be harder. It would be harder. It's just not... That's not the market's not as there, right? There's not as much of a market for that kind of thing. And I see this very clearly in life, and people make fun of this a lot, but it's easy to, but I try not to because it's not very nice, and a lot of these people are, not in a good place in their life, and if they can get to a better place in their life, and if something helps them get through it, good for them. I think there's a lot of men right now, and definitely some women too, but I think there's a lot of men right now, and I think a lot of this comes down to parenting problems and things like that. But I think there's a lot of men in the world right now that have not had particularly good upbringings. They're struggling to adapt to society and find their role in society, and they have almost no like positive female influence in their life at all. Zero. Nil. Right? And that's why there's such a market for that kind of thing, right? Because I think men and women generally need, you know, masculine and feminine influences in their life, right? To some degree. Different people need different levels of it, and they need different things. You know, people are individuals. Who knew? But I think there's a real issue right now with, you know, some of the younger generations right now, and really struggling with finding their place in society and having absolutely no feminine influence in their life in any capacity, and it makes problems. Right? I don't want to make fun of these people because it's not, a lot of it's not their fault, and it's a genuine problem, you know. So I don't want to contribute to their problems, right? I'd rather help. Not that I really can, but you know, I just don't, you know, I see a lot of people make fun of those kinds of people, and sometimes those kind of people do behave unreasonably or inappropriately and things like that, and that kind of behavior needs to be called out and dealt with, absolutely. You know, inappropriate behavior is inappropriate behavior regardless of, you know, your situation. But just because I don't, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, the losers, right? I don't want to be that guy. I never want, because there were times in my past I didn't have like those kind of problems, but there were a lot of times in my past where I was in situations where, you know, I was in a bad place, and it'd be easy for people like, oh, what a loser, right? But I was able to overcome those things, and I don't want to. I'd rather turn around and give a helping hand than turn around and make fun of people, right? That's stupid. I'm a lucky son of a bitch. I'm a lucky son of a bitch that my father. I would probably be dead in the ditch right now if it wasn't for my father like coming into my life in a more active role when I got into my teenage years. I'm serious. I'd probably be dead in the ditch right now if it wasn't for that. So I'm very lucky because of that. I had other, you know, good fortunes in my life as I through my, you know, troubled years. I had a lot of good fortune, and I had some good friends. I've had some, you know, and I have some lifelong friends that I've had in my life that I've been so fortunate to have. And a lot of people don't have that, right? I didn't get through a lot of this, and I didn't get the success that I have in life just through, you know, my own work. A lot of it's just luck. I'm not like some, you know, Chad that conquered life. I just got lucky in a lot of respects, right? And I would rather do what I can to help other people than make fun of them. And this is something I struggle with. I'm not good at that kind of thing, to be honest, because I'm a very brash person. I'm a very abrasive person, and I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with the kind of man that I am, and I enjoy the person that I am. But I can come off as, you know, very abrasive and all these things, and that can be a problem sometimes for helping people. But genuinely, I'd be, you know, I'm happy to be able to help people through hard times in their life, and I've known especially some young men that, you know, have really been in some hard times, and I've tried to do what I can to help. You know, I can't do that much, unfortunately. You know, I don't got the answers here, but you know, I don't like when people make fun of like all these groups that, you know, are obviously struggling. I just don't. It's not a good look. I think it's a really bad look to make fun of people like that. Now, I think some individuals, you know, deserve criticism or ridicule, sure. You know, take people on an individual level. Don't, you know, stay away from those broad, sweeping strokes. I have no idea what we're fighting. I guess we're fighting lizards. I was thinking we might be fighting Bloodborne guys, but I think we're fighting lizards, so the Art of Death won't help. So we're 4-4-4. I feel like a lot of my CEs aren't going to be particularly helpful here for her, so... fuck it, we'll do this because Guts is good. Hey man, I do think though people like, I think they'll take it too far where they're like, you know, kids in Africa could have eaten that granola bar or whatever, right? But like, I do think if you get very financially successful, you know, you should give a degree to charity. You should be smart with you shouldn't just throw money at charities. Some charities aren't worthwhile, but if you're really rich, it does make sense to try to, you know, help where you can. But people can get way over the top and judgmental about those things, which is stupid. I never judge anybody for like if they give the charity or not. None of my fucking business. I don't know their financial situation. You know, I don't know which charities they trust and don't trust. None of my business. You know, fuck it. But I certainly am happy and respect people that are you know, very financially successful, and they do give, you know, to charity and try to help the world and that kind of. That's good. That's something I respect. But I don't get on like some soapbox and be like, oh yeah, you gotta do this and that because you've. That's stupid. That's ain't none of my goddamn business. Oh yeah, we can have sound back now. I mean, I don't really use Ascension 1 Mash, I use Ascension 3 Mash, but I don't use Mash on this account anyway, so I've been literally... I honest to God have no idea why she's stage 1. I would have thought... Because I've never touched her profile in this game. I've just never touched her profile in this game, and I would have always thought that if you play through the game naturally, I would have thought that she ends up as stage 3 with the stage 4 art, but I guess not. But I always thought naturally it would just progress with the story, but I guess it doesn't. Yeah, I guess that makes sense that it wouldn't progress, because I guess you could be level 1 at this point. I never really thought of that. Hey, Arjuna with the gifted sub to L. Thank you, Arjuna. But yeah, on my main account, where I actually bother with Mash, I have her in stage 3. Stage 3 art and stage 3 Ascension. Everybody then always says, I get tired of it, man. It's like, on my main account, people are like, why aren't you using stage 4? Like it's inherently better to have stage 4 art than stage 3 for some fucking reason, right? And on this account, it's like, why is it stage 1? It's like first off, now Mash is a unique case because I haven't really used Mash, and apparently her profile behaves differently than every other profile, but I suppose that actually makes sense because of kind of the unique nature of how Mash ascends and everything. But I get asked a lot, I've been seriously asked. They don't ask, what's your favorite Robin Hood Ascension? By the way, I'm not kidding, it's normally Robin Hood. I don't know why, but Robin Hood comes up a lot. I do not know why, but anyway, people pretty much never will ask me, what's your favorite Robin Hood Ascension? Or they don't ask me, hey, why is stage 1 your favorite Robin Hood Ascension? Because I'm assuming that's your favorite because he's in stage 1, right? They don't do that. They're like, why aren't you using stage 3 Robin? It's like, because I want to use stage 1 Robin, which is the obvious answer, genius, right? Like, I hate leading questions like that. Like, and sometimes people do it on accident, and fair enough. But like, just ask what you mean, right? If you want to know what what the person's favorite thing is and why, just ask them that. Don't ask them, why aren't you using like the most popular one or the one you think is best or whatever. Like, Jesus, it's just weird. Like, I don't like those kind of leading, like, assumption-based questions. And again, sometimes people do it on accident, and I'm sure I do it sometimes on accident, right? But it's like, holy crap, if you see someone using stage 1 Robin, and you want to know why, just ask them, hey, what's, is Robin stage 1 your favorite? How come, you know? Because that's cool. That's, I like to pick people's brains like that. I like to ask people, like, what their favorite characters are and why and stuff. But I don't be like, well, why is Nero your favorite character? Like, why isn't it Ku, right? I don't do that. That's stupid, right? I like how Arcade got that Jack costume, but, and when people have been asking for that kind of thing forever. I mean, my god, the Jack meme is like the oldest thing, it's one of the oldest fucking memes in FGO, man, and Arcade beat us through the punch, man. Normally, it depends on the account. On my main account, I will, oh, okay. I was like wanting to get like NP value going and shit, but on my main account, I mess up occasionally, but I try to every time. Okay, here's my philosophy. If I'm planning on leveling a character rapidly, or I don't give or I'm planning on leveling them to like 40 and just leaving them there for ages, I won't change their ascension. But once, like let's say when I'm leveling Clown Boy, Nephi Boy. When I'm leveling him, if I'm taking him from 1 to 70 really rapidly, but maybe I take a break for a second at 60 and I go do some stuff, and maybe later I take him to 70, right? Basically, I'm planning on getting him to 70, but I'm not going to use him until he is 70. I won't touch his ascensions and his art and stuff. I won't touch it. It'll just be whatever it is. But when he's done, then I will go and change his profile and stuff to what I like best. Even if I'm not planning on using him much, anytime I get a character done on my main account, I generally will then try to change their stuff to whatever I like most, right? And then the characters that I super like, that I really care about, I will generally manage them as the ascend, right? Unless I'm like literally ascending them like all at once, right? Like with Canis, I didn't touch anything until she was finished, and then I twinked it, right? But let's say I really liked a new character, I get them to 30 or whatever, and I don't have them the mats or the whatever to continue on for a while, then I'll still change their profile or whatever and revisit it as I go, right? If I really care about the unit. But generally, if I don't care about the unit too much, I'm not going to touch it until they're done. But on my ult accounts, a lot of times I just don't bother. I'll bother with the units I plan on using actively. And sometimes I forget, like, shit, like, I do the same thing for NPs, right? Like, on my main account, I like to have Lu Bu's NP in slow-mo, and I prefer to do that on my ult accounts too, but sometimes I just forget. And I just don't bother, because it's an ult account, it's like, whatever. But like on my main account, I try to think about, oh, I prefer this NP in fast mode, or I prefer this one in slow-mo, or I'm gonna farm with this unit a lot, so I should probably keep it in fast mode. You know, that kind of thing, right? But with my ult accounts, I don't always bother. I mean Lu Bu's new one, though, obviously, his old one. Honestly, though, I didn't hate his old one, because it looked like he was roaring, and a beam of energy was spawning out of his chest and shooting the enemy. That's what his old NP looked like, and I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of awesome. And I am so thankful that DW rather blatantly felt the same way, because they made his extra attack his old NP. And I'm like, fuck yes! Right? Like, they clearly, and I've noticed this about DW, they try to accommodate for, like, when something is old, but, you know, maybe it's not good production value, they still try to accommodate that in the animation update, right? They always do that. And sometimes to a fault, and it can result in lazy animations and stuff, but they rather blatantly were like, you know what, I bet you there's some people out there that like Lu Bu's old animation, but they would just prefer it to look better, so let's make it his extra attack. That was a really elegant way of addressing that thing, and I'm glad they actually cared enough, because Lu Bu's not that popular, so I'm glad they actually cared enough to do that, because they clearly did. His new extra attack is blatantly a reference to his old NP animation, like, abso-fucking-lutely, and I'm rather thankful for that, because I liked the old one in a way. But, like, it's the same thing with, it's the same thing with Lancelot. His old NP animation did not have the jet, he just fired the machine gun. Well, somebody probably liked just him firing the machine gun. So look at what they did. They've now got the jet and everything, but at the end, he's just firing the machine gun like he used to. They always do stuff like that, right? Yeah, he has 2 extra attacks. He's got 2 extra attacks. But one of them is blatantly his old NP animation. Lu Bu is one of the few 3-star animation updates that they've done in like the last year and a half or something that I'm like, you know what, they actually did a pretty decent job with this. You know, they've been, I mean, hell, just for animation updates, period, I feel like a lot of them over the last year or so have been pretty shit and have been pretty phoned in. But Lu Bu's was pretty good. You know, it's not perfect, but they did a pretty good job with it. I agree. I agree that I wish they bothered to give Lancelot different NP animations based on what Ascension he's in, because I've said this before, it really bothers me, and this happens a lot with the video games and stuff, where something story-specific happens, and then they have to put that in everything, when it was a story-specific thing, not a character-specific thing. Lancelot, Berserker, does not inherently run around with a jet. Right, that was something specific that happened in Fate Zero. His Noble Phantasm just allows him to turn anything into a Noble Phantasm, right? So really, his Noble Phantasm should be based on, you know, the specific story and what's happening and that kind of thing. Now, obviously, they can't, you know, do all of that. It's too much work for FGO, but it annoys me that in every single video game that Berserker Lancelot is in, his NP is always the jet. When that's not his NP. That's literally not what his NP is, right? That annoys me. And they do this to a lot of characters where something story-specific will happen to them, and then they'll just put that across the board and everything. And I think an elegant way to deal with Lancelot would have been, okay, stage 1 and maybe stage 2, or probably just stage 1, that'll be the jet, right? And then, like, you know, for stage 3 especially, it'll be, we'll make the animation with him doing Alondite shenanigans, or him grabbing different weapons and beating them, the shit out of them, all these different weapons that he's turning into his Noble Phantasms and stuff. That's a better way of representing Lancelot. I don't feel like they're actually, like, am I the only one? I'm a big Lancelot fan, and I don't feel like they're actually really representing his moveset very well. I think they're representing Fate Zero. I think they're representing, like, how he was specifically in Fate Zero, not how Lancelot actually fights. You know, Lancelot used guns and shit because that's what was given to him and that's what was available. He used a pole because that's what was there. You know, he's literally going to turn whatever he can into a Noble Phantasm and fight with that. And, like, if you read the description of his Noble Phantasm, that's the thing. That's the shtick. Its subtitle is, like, a knight doesn't die empty-handed. That's the name of it. And it's basically, you know, Lancelot is so... Lancelot in his life was so skilled and he learned how to use all these different weapons to such a masterful degree, and he'll fucking, if he's in a pinch, he would grab a fucking tree branch and find a way to use it, right? He's not gonna go down like a bitch, right? That's the point. And that's why his Noble Phantasm can turn anything pretty much into a weapon and into a Noble Phantasm. It doesn't target specifically modern weaponry or ancient weaponry or poles or rocks. It doesn't matter. It works with anything that he can use as a weapon, right? And that's what makes it a unique and awesome Noble Phantasm, right? And I feel like they never represent it. I would prefer like his finals, like what I would do, this is what I would do. Is I would make it so stage 1 is the jet, because, you know, of course people thought that was awesome and it's kind of a meme, and so okay, stage 1's the jet and the pole. That's your Fate Zero reference, right? And fair enough, that's fine, you know. You got the cool pole attacks in stage 1 and then his in-piece the jet, okay. And then stage 2, now this is probably more work than they would do. I think a reasonable amount of work would have 2 NP animations, but if I could have 3 for one for each stage, I'd make 1 the jet, and I'd make 2 a hodgepodge where he's like picks up a rock and throws it, and it you know, it turns into a Noble Phantasm, and, you know, grabs this, he grabs that, you know, he's using all these different weapons, you know, and then stage 3 I'd make it just a Londite, because when he gets serious, that's certainly what he does, is he pulls out a Londite. And this is actually unconfirmed. I was looking into this rather recently because me and Fury on Discord were like disagreeing on Lancelot, and we were you know, trying to figure some shit out. And as far as I'm aware, they haven't really been clear about how corrupted a Londite works. And Fate Extella implies that it works almost exactly like Saber Lancelot's a Londite, but Extella Link is not exactly, you know, there's so many reasons why that's not necessarily something you should take as a good reference, because even there's a lot of fan service, but even that aside, the extra universe just operates differently, right? You know, Ku's much stronger in the extra universe than he is in normal. You know, normally Ku can't turn his spear into a skyscraper, right? That doesn't normally happen. You know, so the reason that Berserker Lancelot can do a Londite overload is presumably just because of, potentially just because of, you know, Moon Cell shenanigans, and it could just be fan service, so we don't know. But as from what I have seen, they've truly not been very clear about how the corrupted version of a Londite works. It is clear that it still boosts Lancelot's stats by 1. He's unable to conceal his identity if he whips it out. But in terms of if it can still do like the mana gathering charge boom thing and all that stuff, we don't know. You know, and Extella Link, he does do that, but not as a Noble Phantasm, but as like a kind of a more normal attack. So maybe he can, my assumption would be, and I feel like Nasu probably hasn't thought about it, but due to how the video games have treated it, FGO and Extella Link, and kind of what's logical, my guess would be if they ever had to sit down and plan it, I would think what they would do is regular Alondite can, you know, do like a proper Noble Phantasm attack with the big slashy thing, and I think he can actually fire it as a laser beam as well, and it's much stronger. And the Berserker one, because he slew his fellow knights and it's corrupted now, it can't do that to the same level. It's different now, and it can do like a lesser degree of Alondite overload and stuff. Because in FGO and in Extella Link, that's what it does ultimately. That may just be because it's not they're not using it in a big fancy NP animation, so they kind of water it down visually. But it kind of seems, I would be willing to guess that Berserker Lancelot can do a version of Alondite overload, but it's not proper, and it doesn't. It's not as strong. That's how I think they would probably address it. But they haven't actually addressed it, so we don't know. It could just be, you know, visual aesthetic nonsense and things like that. Kind of like how they kind of reference Ku's Death Flight and his extra attack, but that obviously doesn't really represent how Death Flight works and everything, right? So it could just be kind of a nod, right? So I don't know. Maybe he can't perform it at all, or maybe he can and it's just as powerful as Saber Lancelot's. We don't know. We just don't know. But yeah, anyway, a Londite is basically the thing, you know, Lancelot busts out when he's really serious, and I wish they represented that better in his stage 3, because it's awesome. I mean, that's my favorite version of Lancelot, is him with the armor, the helmet, and he's using his proper weapon, and he's getting that stat boost. I've seen a lot of people act like the stat boost from a Londite is kind of underwhelming. They're like, man, Excalibur, it's supposed to be Excalibur's sister sword, but it's like, it's so much more underwhelming. I don't agree with that, man. I think a Londite is badass as fuck, and I think it is on par with Excalibur. Right? Yes, its big blast isn't as strong as Excalibur, but then it has something else. It gives you a stat. Like, okay, here's the thing. A Londite overload and like the laser, I think, that it can fire and stuff is not as strong as Excalibur, but it's still very strong. It's still very strong. But then it also boosts all your stats by 1. I think that's completely on par with Excalibur. I think that's like, you know, it's weaker in one area, but it's still good. But then it does this other thing. Boosting all your stats by 1 is no small feat. That makes a servant much stronger. One stat in all stats is a big. Do you realize how high Lancelot's, you know, like especially Berserker Lancelot's stats get when he has Alondite out? That's ridiculous, right? That's a pretty damn big deal. So I think Alondite is worthy of its, you know, its title of being, you know, Excalibur's, like, you know, sister blade or whatever. So I think that I think it's good. So I like it. Like, honestly, I think Alondite is one of the meaner, if not the meanest, Noble Phantasm from Camelot. Like seriously, because it has diversity in the way its overload can work. That's good, and that overload is scary as fuck. And it also boosts all your stats by 1. That is fantastic. Like, I mean, really, and like Mordred's doesn't even count because I don't think Mordred's NP. Like, okay, so when Mordred is a weird one. I honestly have no idea how they're gonna handle Mordred if they ever decided to make a story. I don't think they fucked up. I think APOC fucked up anyway. But that's just the visuals of the anime. You know, the book I don't think did this. But so Mordred in life, you know, she obviously didn't get her sword until near the end, right? To put it nicely, you know, she didn't steal the sword until near the end. So she wasn't even using the damn thing until near the end. And I'll get into the specifics of her Noble Phantasm in a second. But so she should have presumably been using some other, you know, weapons before that, and those probably weren't gonna get recorded as Noble Phantasms, right? So if they ever made a story of like you're in a singularity of the time of Camelot, she theoretically shouldn't have her NP, right? So and then obviously her NP doesn't even work properly because she stole it, and then she literally forces it to do something else that's even stronger than what it did originally, I would say. But she could only did that after the Battle of Camelon, right? She did, well, maybe around there. She didn't, you know, obtain all this hatred and shit for Artoria, you know, until after their interesting conversation. So, like, I don't really think that one's in the running with Alondite anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think Alondite's the best one, unless I'm forgetting something. Like, I think Alondite's the best Noble Phantasm from, like, Camelot's era. I think Excalibur's really good too, but I do think Alondite's is the bee's knees here. Yeah, Mordred's NP is weird because originally it's like a lesser version of Alondite. Like for real, it's literally a lesser version of Alondite. It's supposed to basically be more of a symbolic weapon that's supposed to be like Artoria is supposed to give it to whoever she thinks is worthy to be the heir to the throne, right? Or whatever present king is. So let's say you've got, you know, Uther is supposed to use that sword to kind of appoint the next heir, and then that heir is supposed to, you know, then appoint the next one. That's what the kind of the purpose of that sword is. It's kind of the symbol of the heir to the throne, right? But then its effect is, it boosts all your stats by 1, much like Alondite. And it's a B rank Noble Phantasm, so like the quality of it presumably would be that. And as far as I'm aware, it doesn't have any other effect. Maybe they just haven't detailed something. Maybe it does have some other proper effect. And for some reason, it's the sister sword. For some reason, it's the sister sword to the Roman Caesar that they use in Prototype. That, you know, because, you know, Rome generally plays a role in Arthurian legend. It kind of depends on which version of the Arthurian legend, but you know, because Rome was kind of still around at that time. And for some reason, you know, that the Mordred's NP is like the sister blade to this other blade that you know, Lucius has. And I don't know, maybe they won it from them, and then they were like, oh, this is a prize from our victory, and we'll now use it to appoint the heir to the throne and shit. So I don't know, maybe it's something like that. I don't really get it, but it is what it is. Anyway, but yeah, that sword is supposed to appoint the next, you know, the kind of be a symbol of the heir to the throne. And because Mordred was not, you know, actually appointed heir to the throne by Artoria and anything, the sword doesn't recognize her as the heir to the throne, and it doesn't work. The blade doesn't, it doesn't give her a +1 to all stats. And it's supposed to be a B rank Noble Phantasm, but it downgrades to a C rank one because, you know, she is not she shouldn't have the damn thing, right? But then she makes it do. She basically uses her mana burst and her daddy issues to make the sword do something completely different that it's not supposed to do, and it becomes an A+ Noble Phantasm, so it becomes greater than it is supposed to be. And then you got, you know, Daddy Blast, right? So it's pretty weird. It's like it's supposed to be B rank and it down ranks to C rank because she's not, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And then she forcibly makes it do something completely different that makes it stronger than it originally was. It's a pretty weird Noble Phantasm. Yeah, it's Daddy Issues Blast, pretty much. What's weird is it says is even if she, you know, gets over her issues with her Toria, she'll still be able to use the Noble Phantasm, but I guess it just... And they kind of try to represent that in FGO by having her have a 1 NP line where she's like loyal to Artoria and 1 NP line where she's not, so I guess that's kind of what they were doing there, but yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, I know Arthur finds it weird, yeah, how they use the sword the other way, but I don't know, maybe the Romans stole it from them. I don't know what's going on, and maybe I'm lacking some ancient knowledge here that I just, you know, maybe it's a reference that I just don't realize, but I don't know of a reference that's going on here off memory. I don't know why they made those swords sister swords, and I don't know why the Romans have one and then Arthur's court has the other. You know, maybe the Romans stole the one blade, or you know, or they stole the other. Like, I'm sure the reason why one has one and the other has the other is like there was, you know, battling and someone took one as a prize or whatever, right? But I don't know why they did that. I'm not aware of any historical connection to that, but there's so much convoluted bullshit in Arthurian legend and so much stuff where we don't even know where it came from and everything that, you know, God knows, maybe they are referencing something that I'm just unaware of, but... God, there's so many things wrong with the way they did Adam in this game, and it's very frustrating. See you, Red. That's another one where they didn't represent it correctly in any way. And I'm sure there's some historical nonsense to do with the swords and their names. I'm not sure if they're directly connected to like Rome Arthurian legend shenanigans though, because there's not the whole like outside threats thing really varied throughout Arthurian legends history because the times changed, and you know, you got like proto-Rome and then the Eastern Empire and then the, you know, it's pretty complicated, convoluted stuff. So I'm not sure really what's going on there. I might later today I might try to look into that because I'm kind of curious, you know, what the fuck is going on there. Okay, well these are pretty much filler stages, so I can kind of do whatever I want. Let's go, God Juna, let's go. That's probably overkill, but why not? Not really bringing units that make a lot of sense in the back row, but whatever. Does MASH give the bond bonus now? No, feels bad, because, you know, getting bond on Herc would be nice. There's a lot of ways they could have handled Adam that was better. Okay, here's my main issue. So first and foremost is Adam in his character material book and the actual APOC book, you know, the actual story, at no point does he ever do a roar scream thing. Never happens, not even mentioned, never alluded to, not a thing. He only did that in the adaptation anime, right? And he didn't even do like some giant shockwave attack. It was just literally a quick thing that he did to like deflect arrows, which again is anime specific. And it wasn't a big deal. It was just a random little roar thing that he did to make a shockwave to get rid of arrows coming at him. It was nothing like... I cannot believe that they used that as the basis of his entire Noble Phantasm in this game. It just shows how much they didn't care, and they were looking for a reason to not have to put a lot of resources into him and not have to animate a lot or not have to do anything, you know, fancy. They're like, how can we make this a generic AoE attack? They were looking for an excuse for that, which is absurd, right? So that's my biggest problem, is they literally just made his entire Noble Phantasm, which is such an interesting, intricate, unique, and different Noble Phantasm. They just boiled it down to a stupid AoE roar that he never even did, right? That's really stupid, right? Now, in terms of how they could have done it, there's a lot of ways they could have done it that wouldn't even have been too difficult. Like, first off, if they didn't want to... Okay, I think a really good way to do it would have been to you know, do something a bit more outside the box, like having it change it, like what a VC Bronze skills do, and change what his normal attack animations are. But if that's too much work, if they wanted to make it a generic set in stone NP animation, let's just set it and forget it. and doesn't change like gameplay after you use it or anything, I would have made it a single target NP, and which would have been fantastic because we don't have single target 3-star FP summon casters, so that would have been nice. But it fits him better. Adam never really does big AoE stuff in his fight. Now, presumably, maybe when he got to his final stage, he might be able to, but his NP in the game is representing him at stage 1 anyway, and we only ever saw him at stage 1. And all he ever does in stage 1 is, very, very impressive feats of strength in terms of like physical stuff. He fights with a sword, right? He fights with a very large sword, and he just, jumps and punches and stomps and uses the sword rather skillfully. That's what he does. So just make it single attack. Make it a single target where he summons Adam and then he just does what he does in the book. He just fights with his physical body and the sword, and he just bam bam smack smack slash slash. Right? You can do kind of like a 9 lives kind of looking thing. Right? And you can make it single target because that makes more sense. And we need single target casters anyway. Just do that. That's an easy noble phantasm to do. That's not thinking outside the box. That yeah, it doesn't represent Adam perfectly, but you could kind of represent his other stuff where you make it a single target, boom, boom, smack, smack, and it like heals the team, right? And like it's overcharged or whatever, it's healing the team and gives them NP gain plus. And that kind of represents the kind of reality marble, living reality marble aspect of it, right? Good enough. I would have been totally happy with that. That wouldn't have been too resource intensive. It would have been a bit more resource intensive than just the re, because the re is literally 1 frame. They did nothing, right? Which is pretty pathetic, but that wouldn't have been too hard to do. That would have been an okay way of doing Adam, right? But, they were just so fucking lazy. It's just sad. I love VC Bronze so much. He's one of my favorite characters. I think Adam is such a cool, noble phantasm. And now, the ideal world, I think, would have been, I would have liked to have seen, there's a couple ways you could have approached it. You could have made it where, like, maybe he attacks with Adam when you summon them, and then maybe he passively changes the VC Bronze stuff. So Adam is incorporated into a VC Bronze normal attacks. Like, you see Adam kind of punch from off screen or stomp from off screen or, whatever. That would be really cool, and that's kind of a more appropriate way of representing what Adam does. And then you could have it upgrade VC Bronze skills, like how Jekyll and Hyde have their skills get upgraded after you NP. You could do that, right? And if you wanted to, instead of having Adam show up in the normal attacks, you could have him show up in the skill animations instead, right? That would have been really cool. And honestly, gameplay-wise, you basically have a Mystic Code, which is Adam, right? It's representing Adam in the fight, right? And when you fight Ivan, and that did a better job of representing how Adam works than a VC Bronze NP does, which is just so sad. I mean, again, a VC Bronze is one of my he's in my top 5 favorite servants. I like him so much, and I love his voice actor did a great job, and I like his design, and Adam is so cool, and the game did such a bad job with him. It's just so sad. And I always thought maybe they would never even put a VC Bronze in the game because his NP might be, maybe because I was like, yeah, VC Bronze is not going to be very popular. I don't think they're going to be willing to give him like 5-star animation quality, right? And they might feel like he's only doable that way, so they just won't do him. But then they decided to do him, and I was so excited, and then it wasn't done very well. And I was like, God damn it. They put more effort into a VC Bronze normal attacks than they put into Adam, which I'm like, really? So it's hard to do an exact top 5 because some characters are like tied. So I'm not even going to do an exact order, and some of these things are tied and some of these things aren't. But my top is like Ku, Gilgamesh, Mordred, Achilles, a VC Bron, Proto Ku, it's the kind of that kind of stuff. The exact ordering of it is kind of a mess. Oh, and Kidu too. But yeah, it's kind of a mess. But those are like the absolute top dogs right there. Dante's is up there. Dante's is definitely up there. He's not quite in like the absolute top chunk, but he's really high in my list. He's like, easily like top 15 or something. I don't know where exactly. Arthur's up there too. The main reason why I kind of hold off on putting Arthur super high on my list is because he hasn't been detailed as well as some of the other characters have, and it's kind of the same thing for Proto-Ku. He's been detailed more because you have Fate Prototype Blue Fragments and whatnot, and so I do rate him rather highly. But until they actually finish Fate Prototype, it's hard for me to rate him exactly, right? Because he hasn't been flushed out to the degree that like Ku, Mordred, Gilgamesh, and stuff like that has been. But if they finally do Fate Prototype, and you know it's all uphill for Arthur, then he is going to end up in like my top. Because I like his voice actor, I like his design, and what they have shown I like a lot. You know, I think it's kind of like, you know, Artoria's kind of the fan fiction divergence of Arthurian legend, but they did a good job and everything, and they didn't name her Arthur, you know, she's Artoria, right? And then Arthur's kind of the more traditional, you know, inline take, but still anime, and I like that. That's nice. I was just so happy that we got Arthur, because I'd always been like, you know, at least they put effort into Artoria, but I would have much preferred proper King Arthur. You know, I've always been a big fan of Arthurian legend and everything. It's something I've researched probably more than almost anything. Like, it's ridiculous, but I was like, man, it sucks that we don't get actual King Arthur. But then we did get actual King Arthur. I'm like, fuck yeah, right? So it was nice. I mean, not really. They just share voice actors, and that's kind of just like a meme. In terms of characterization, they're not similar in any way. You know, Proto Merlin is not an Artoria face. I am so glad they had enough respect for the story that Proto Merlin is not an Artoria face, because they just share a voice actress, right? It's not. She's not an Artoria. Her characterization is massively different, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And Merlin, you know, his characterization is massively different from Arthur, so it's just kind of a funny reference. Man, Arjuna's NP is pretty fancy, man. But I've always said I don't really like the way they did Proto Merlin, because I really feel like it's not staying true to Fate Prototype. I don't think for half a fucking second, when they designed Fate Prototype, that Merlin was going to be female. I just don't think that for a fucking second. I think the only reason they did that was because they had already shown off, you know, Merlin in the regular Fate Stay Night universe, and they're like, oh man, this is a good opportunity to have a waifu version. That's the only reason I feel like it happened, right? And I don't really care for that. But, you know, it is what it is, and at least I don't hate the design and the characterization or anything. It's, you know, it seems to be kind of in line what you would expect, so they didn't like completely drop the ball or anything. But I'm not really a fan of that. I would have preferred they kind of just, you know, sure, update Fate Prototype, and, you know, because they've learned things and they got, you know, they updated the designs and stuff. That's fine, you know, giving it a facelift is okay. But I would have preferred they kind of just stuck with what the original idea behind Fate Prototype. But it's not my IP, it's their IP. They can do whatever the fuck they want. But it's just like, I've always felt like, I feel like if they ever do Fate Prototype, oh my god, I am so sick of 7 Deadly Sins, dude. It just will not shut the fuck up. I have turned notifications off for that so many fucking times. I cannot stand that. I get so fucking tired of that. Like, it's the only game that will not shut the fuck up no matter what I do. Jesus. Anyway, they never revealed what they were going to do for Prototype Assassin and Prototype Caster. They just never revealed that with the character material book and the OVA. They never did it. And it may have been something as boring as they were always planning on using Medea, right? Like, because the Fate Stay Night took from a lot from Prototype, obviously, like a lot. It would not surprise me if the caster was just Medea, and they didn't make any significant changes, right? Medea, so that's why they didn't even mention her. It's like, yeah, it was just Medea. And so if that's the case, I feel like if they ever visit Prototype again, they won't use whatever they were originally intending to be the caster and just have like a Prototype twist on it. They'll just make it something new. And a big part of that, and this is in a way a fair criticism, but like, I mean, it's kind of true to like the legends they were focusing on. It's a kind of, Prototype's kind of a sausage fest, right? There really aren't any female, there's like fuck all female characters in Prototype. Right, and there's no servants, right? As of right now, there are no female servants in Fate Prototype. Now, Medea is female, sure, but because she's already in Fate Stay Night, I don't think they're going to want to use her. They're going to want some other new waifu that's going to get people all excited and you know, that waifu factor. So I feel like they're kind of mining Fate Prototype instead of making Fate Prototype, right? They're kind of using it, they're kind of milking it for profit instead of kind of sticking to what it was about, which I'm not really a fan of that, right? But yeah, I don't. Whatever the caster and assassin end up being, I don't think it's going to be what it originally was supposed to be. Because I have a feeling it was pretty much as it was in Fate Stay Night. It's just like Hercules in Prototype is barely different from Hercules in Fate Stay Night. He's not, yeah, his abilities are slightly different and his design is slightly different. I have to stress the slightly, right? And so I think there's a good chance Medea was kind of in the same boat, and I don't think they don't want to do that anymore. So, kind of rip that. I'm literally just using Berserkers because Assassins. Yeah, a lot of people think Brunhilde and Serenity are and all that, and Hohenheim for caster, but that's Fragments, which is Fate Zero. I cannot believe how much Prototype and Fragments are conflated. It's nuts, and it's because Fragments is a complete story and Prototype is not. But they're literally Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, which are obviously connected, of course. But, you know, they're different stories, for God's sakes, that take place in different years, and, you know, although they share some characters, they are different. Just like Zero is different to Fate Stay Night, Fragments is obviously different to Prototype. Which is weird, because Proto-Lancer is so famous for being part of Prototype, and somehow, I guess people think there's two Lancers for some reason, I don't know. Oh yeah, I guess we beat Shimosa. I mean, the thing is, the stream title is going to be the VOD name. I mean, I can edit it, but it's like, you know, neither title is strictly accurate, so. Because the stream itself was Shimosa, but we beat it. Yeah, for the people that do conflate the two, I don't know what they think is going on with Protoku and Brunhilde. They either just don't, maybe they just don't even think about it, or they think for some reason there's two Lancers in the story or something, I'm not sure. I've never really thought about that. But what I see mostly get conflated is Serenity and Hohenheim, like, overwhelmingly. I mean, yeah, I can blame them. I mean, it's like, because, okay, Prototype is not a full story like Fate Stay Night is. But most people don't read Fate Stay Night anyway. Like, the general, the general Fate fan base is still at least aware that Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night are not the same goddamn thing. And most of those people have never read Fate Zero and they've never read Fate Stay Night. Right? So the fact that, you know, because most people haven't read Fragments. Fragments exists and is a full story, and most people haven't read it, sure, but it still exists, and somehow people have taken Fragments as the main Prototype story, right? But then the OVA exists. I imagine, you know, most people watch the OVA and don't look into it any further than that, and obviously Brunhilde, Hohenheim, and Arash and Ozzy and all that stuff aren't in that OVA, so that should be some kind of obvious warning signs that, you know, it's not the same thing. Although, I guess I've seen some people now that think Ozzy is original from F-Go. I've legitimately seen people that are like, wait, Ozzy's from Prototype? I've legitimately seen that. Which is funny, because he's kind of the overarching biggest, you know, villain of Prototype Fragments, I would say. He's kind of the biggest problem. I mean, I guess the main antagonist in a way is just the Beast, but... And I remember way back in the day, I was like, oh yeah, that Aussie guy from Prototype's getting added to F-Go. That was a big part of why I was sure that Arthur was going to get added, was because they added Aussie. I was like, oh yeah, that's like the big bad guy that Arthur fights in Fragments. Surely they're going to add Arthur then. But apparently everyone forgot that, so... I mean, he's like the antagonist that has the most impact on the story, right? He's not like he's not the evil behind the scenes. He's not the Ongra, you know, or the Kodamine or whatever. But, you know, he's the Gilgamesh. He's the main antagonist, you know, factor that they're dealing with for most of the story. He's the thing that's preventing them from like accomplishing, you know, the Grail stuff that they want to accomplish, right? That's so. I think it's kind of fair to say he's the main antagonist overall. But, you know, in terms of like the biggest threat, the biggest evil, the man behind the curtain or whatever, you know, it's the Grail itself really in Prototype. Because the Grail system is different in Prototype. It's not the same. Like, it's just not. You know, the world fundamentally operates differently in Prototype. Now, they've kind of streamlined it to be more similar to Fate Stay Night to kind of make them more compatible. But, like, the Grail system in the Fate, you know, world was made by man to reach the root, right? And they're tricking the servants to die and give them enough mana to try to get to the root, right? That's the point of it. The point of the Grail system in the Prototype world Although I don't think it's ever explicitly said it was made by humans. It's probably made by, you know, mage families and stuff still. It was designed to specifically summon the 666 beast. That's specifically what the Grail system in the prototype world does. It's the whole point of it. So that's a pretty big difference there. I don't remember having a fight with Angry Cat this early in the story, but I actually kind of feel bad that I didn't bring a more toned down team, if you will. I was kind of just blasting through, you know, filler content. But I assume this fight ends when you break 1 health bar or something, so it's probably not a proper fight with her anyway. Let's see how God Unit does on his own. No perk here. I would like a timeline or a world where the Grail Wars are a lot more normal, and they focus on like the tactics of the masters and you know, critting would have been nice, but yeah, when they focus on like the tactics of the masters and that kind of stuff, and just the character interactions between the servants and the masters and the other characters, you know, that's kind of the meat. That's the meat and potatoes of Fate anyway, right? It's the character interactions and then the fighting and those interactions and that is the meat of Fate. And so I'd like a story that kind of removes the bullshit, you know, spooky nonsense in the background, right, and kind of just focuses on that. Not every story needs to be like that, sure, but it'd be nice if a writer decided to do that. That could be pretty cool, I think. I don't know why I haven't used my attack up this entire time. Well, there are some normal Grail Wars, honestly. There's the ones before the Einsburns fucked it up. There's still the whole, you know, sinister plan in the background to get to the root instead, right? But the you know, how they actually played out were a lot more normal. But then once the Einsburns decided to summon Ongar, everything got, you know, fucked. But then there's a lot of Grail Wars in a few timelines. They're like, there's something like the history of like the Grail Wars and APOC are a bit more normal, and then like in Fate Strange Fake there was a lot of like proto Grail Wars that were pretty tame, right? But they weren't like, they didn't have like the full Grail and all that kind of stuff involved and everything. So there have been like normal Grail Wars depicted, they're just not shown. And again, because okay, prototype is not, it's not part of like the normal timeline. Right, it's not an alternate timeline for Fate. It's a different world. It has its own set of timelines and its own, you know, shit. You know, it's a fundamentally different thing, right? And same for wherever Masashi comes from. She's from a different world, not a different timeline. So they can always just make a different world where the Grail Wars are more normal, right? They could easily do that if they wanted to. The writers are kind of free to do what they want. You know, the Fate franchise is flexible enough. It's kind of more about what the writers want to do, not so much about what the ground rules make you do, because the ground rules are pretty flexible. I'm sure if a writer wanted to, you know, wanted to write Fate Snow Cone, and they wanted it to be, you know, a more typical, normal war that has, you know, it's more about the tactics and the character interactions, and not have this, you know, weird background plot. They could do that if they wanted to. I just don't think really any of them have cared to do that, because I actually feel like a lot of stories feel like if they don't have the big dragon at the end, they don't have the Illuminati behind the scenes the whole time or whatever, that they feel like the story doesn't have like enough, it can't hold on its own. They can't have just like the tactics with the nations or the kings or the, you know, they can't, a lot of shows I think feel like that's not enough, and they need that, you know, the spooky ancient dragon is corrupting one of the countries, and that's the final boss, you know, backdrop, you know, that they're alluding to the whole time, right? Like, I feel like most stories feel like they need to do that. It's kind of like a trope, right? And I think a lot of people feel like they need to do that. And some people may legitimately enjoy doing that, and that's fine. You know, again, it's their story. They can do whatever the hell they like. But I think sometimes it's unnecessary, and people do it because they're, like, checking a checkbox. And it's, a lot of times I don't think it's not very helpful to the story. I think sometimes it can be pretty detrimental. Let's go some story support shenanigans. I need a level better Veer. This is quite apparent at this point. I need servants with battery skills. That's the main issue. I have a lack of on-demand NP damage. That is such a bad CE for Ku. I might venture to say that's one of the worst CEs you could ever give Ku. It does, the amount of anti-synergy there is pretty unbelievable. The only way that's good is if like the fight is literally only about like 3 turns. The fight's gonna be over in 3 turns, you either win or lose in 3 turns, and the boss is AoE, and you need to not take damage the first turn, then case protection from arrows, not take damage from the second turn, and then guts for the 3rd turn. That's the only way that makes any sense. Still inferior to the Canis CE, but it would work. You know, you're guaranteed not to take damage on 1 turn, and then you got Protect First the next turn, you've Guts the next turn, you Mystic Code next turn. You would have 4 straight turns of, because like you can't have taunts or teammates or stuff if it's AoE, right? So if you need like 4 or 5 straight turns of Ku is absolutely not going to die no matter what, that would get the job done. But it's not great. I thought I got away with it that time. Dude, I thought I got away with it that time. I do appreciate the support though. I swear I'm not just trying to milk you for $2 every stream, but I find that, at least for the way I play this game, and it's just a really relevant CE. Like, it really is, and especially because this account doesn't have it, but I have its brother or sister or whatever, right? And I wish I had the proper one, because I will say the Sunlight one, right? The Sunlight one that I have is good, and sometimes it's better. But overall, the Canis one is absolutely better. But the Sunlight one is good. It's way worse on some servants, especially for low stars, because low stars have so much evade. So many low stars have evade and no invulnerability. There's basically no 1 to 3 stars that have invulnerability, and so it doesn't sync up very well. And you have things like David and stuff, where, you know, high stars have a lot more invulnerability. Well, they have a lot of both, right? But they have things that have invulnerability, and so then the evade might be, you know, what you want. Like if you have Merlin, maybe you want the evade not getting ticked off, and you have the invulnerability overlapping it, right? So for real, there are times that Sunlight is better than the Canis one, but it's not on a budget setting. It's not. Almost never is it better in a budget setting, unless it doesn't matter if it's invulnerability or evade, and then you want damage cut, right? But that's rare. That's so rare. Because I've hated that it's evade on this account, because I have so much evade. It has a lot of cross problems. Like, I can't use David's second skill and things like that. Like, there's been a lot of issues like that. It's nice that it exists though, because it means you have twice the odds of getting a CE like that. It used to just be the 1, and now you have 2, so that's nice. Because this account doesn't have the Canis one, but it's got the Sunlight one, which I don't actually remember the name of. And actually, I never remember how to say that master's name. I always forget her name. It's weird that she's a decently rememberable character in terms of her characterization, but I don't ever remember what her goddamn name is. See, chat's just confusing people now. Oh yeah, someone asked way earlier, I just forgot to say anything about my sleep situation. You know, I had a really bad night of sleep the night before last. And I slept better last night, not amazing, but so I feel better than I did yesterday, but I definitely don't feel great right now. Like, I can still feel it. The problem is, I'm basically never in a state of, like, good rest. So if I have a bad night, I'm already kind of on the edge anyway, and so then it gets really bad. Like, normally if you're really caught up on sleep and you're in good shape and you have one night of bad sleep, it's not too bad. But I'm never getting good nights of sleep with the situation I'm in right now. I'm never getting good nights of sleep. I'm just getting, like, acceptable nights of sleep. And so then when my allergies get really bad and I have a lot of breathing problems and I get a really bad night of sleep, it's pretty rough on me, and it takes a long time to get back on the horse. It sucks. I hate this, man. I can't wait to, you know, because I can somewhat deal with the symptoms, I'm gonna try to wait a while and then see a specialist and everything later. But I can't wait to hopefully get this behind me and have like a breathing mask or medication that works better or whatever needs to be done. If the answer is surgery, though, I'm gonna be pissed. The surgeries that you have to have that in this department, I mean, I'll do it if I have to because this is miserable, but they sound so terrible, dude. I don't wanna. I'm a big baby, and I'd rather not have a surgery with like a a super long recovery time and all that. I hate that shit, man. But yeah, hopefully I can get, because I miss having good sleep, man. I miss it. You don't realize what you had until it's gone, man. You get to be nice and clear-minded, and you get to have endurance in the day. That's it's nice, but at least it's better now. Dear God, I'm so glad it's better. That like month or whatever where it was just like out of control, man. Whoo, boy, that was not great. Yeah, dude, sleep apnea it's rough, man. And I did not know this until I started having to deal with all these problems. But sleep apnea is generally considered a pretty serious condition, and even though a lot of times its cause is so simple and things like that, the health implications can be so bad that it's generally considered quite serious. Thankfully, I'm able to deal with the symptoms right now, and I'm not actually suffering from sleep apnea every night, right? So that's really good. But I can tell. I mean, it's taking a toll on me. It's obvious. So I'm looking forward to getting this behind me. And I'm glad I looked into it when I did, though, because everyone will have a bad night of sleep from time to time. But I was starting to notice, like, man, I'm not really having. I was like, man, I'll sleep, but I don't feel restful. And then I started noticing I was waking up a lot. And then I started, and I've been having. The main thing is I always have allergy problems anyway, so I wasn't really thinking about that it was really starting to get more out of hand. I wasn't really even noticing, like, oh, it's just some bad allergies. But then I started noticing, like, I'm not actually sleeping properly, and I started like researching like the signs of it and the effects of it, and I'm like, oh god, yeah, I need to take this more seriously. I mean, the thing, I will say my allergies have gotten better, because I did talk to Tusk, and he had been using bleach irresponsibly. He didn't realize bleach was as dangerous as it was, and like, he wasn't like using bleach and like opening a window and shit like that. My dad taught me all those kinds of things, but yeah, he didn't realize. And so we cut that out, and it's definitely better. I'm definitely not having as much problems. I think that was affecting me, but I don't think that's the main cause of it. And I didn't think it would be, because I've always had allergy problems throughout my whole life. It's definitely worse right now especially at night, than it normally is. So I'm working on it, but yeah, I don't really know why. I think part of why it's actually worse, I suspect part of why it's worse. I'm not a doctor, so I could be wrong, but I expect part of the problem is because I'm staying at home so much more. I used to have like a normal job and all that, but then the pandemic happened and that went away, and so because of that, I'm trying to take, that's pretty common if you stay at home more, you're not getting as much fresh air and stuff. So I've been trying to address that kind of stuff. I'm trying to, have windows open from time to time. I got an air filter, air purifier. I'm trying to limit the kind of problems that happen when you stay at home a lot. But I think that's part of the problem. I definitely think that's part of the problem. I think because I was out of the house more. Although I will say going outside caused a lot of problems too. You get exposed to a lot more pollen and shit like that, and sometimes that would wreck the hell out of me. So certain allergic reactions I basically don't have anymore because I don't go outside much. But I think that's definitely part of it. Once the pandemic is over, and maybe we have a vaccine or whatever, I'm gonna make sure I'm regularly, hopefully daily, making sure I'm going outside for a good while and biking again and going to the library or something. I'm gonna try to go to the gym, whatever. I'm gonna try to make sure I get out more and see if that helps. And if it makes it worse, then that's a thing too. But like I'll see if that affects it, because it is kind of noticeable as I've lost my regular job and now I work from home. This has obviously gotten worse. So it is kind of a common denominator there. So. I wish Herc had his NP because I'm doing the AoE thing. Oh wait, no, I can get his NP. Excuse me. But yeah, it's honestly, A lot of other people got a lot worse. It's not, you know, now that I can manage the symptoms, I'm not dying from it, right? It's not like, you know, I have a bad day here and there. My energy level's kind of low, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay. I can get through it. I'll be all right. So it's not, it's nothing to freak out over or anything. I didn't know this either. Apparently, a lot of people have to use breathing masks and stuff and sleeping and whatnot. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I haven't hallucinated. Again, we're not that fucked up anymore. Although honestly, it doesn't take a lot for because yesterday I was a little, you know, like my sleep was really fucked up, and I was a little out. Like I see things in the corner of my eye, and I think, oh my god, that's a person, but it wasn't. It was like, you know, a fan or whatever, right? But that's pretty normal when you just don't get enough sleep. But that's not like full on hallucinating or anything. So it hasn't been that bad in a while. It does suck though. I'm tired. Like the kind of feeling, I'm sure other people in my chat have had this, right? When you just have a few nights of bad sleep, or if you suffer from sleep apnea or whatever, that feeling where you're not getting restful sleep, right? The way your brain feels, it just sucks. I'm so tired of it, man. Like I cannot wait to not have to deal with that anymore. Like you don't feel sharp, you know. You don't. Your head hurts, kind of. You know, that kind of fatigue. You know, it just. Not a fan of it, right? And like, you know, now that I'm getting better sleep, I don't have that nearly as bad, and sometimes I don't even have it, but it still pops up pretty often, and I cannot wait to get rid of that, man. Oh my god, these stages are all assassins and berserkers, man. Can I have something else to play with, please? Shit. Yeah, now that I think about it, this Lostbelt does have a lot of assassins in it, doesn't it? Fuck it, we'll do Tomoe, why not? That's something different. 666, whatever, we'll make it work. Let's get some art stuff going on. Please be able to kill George. Holy crap, I cannot believe how many people have not been capable of killing George in Shimosa. I'm hoping this will, knock that out. I like the singularities where the trash mobs really mix it up. Dude, Lostbelt 5.2 was the shit. I'm not exaggerating. They had 0 stages where you were just fighting bullshit, you know, trash waves. Not a single stage like that. Not one. It was awesome. Every stage was worth a fuck. Every stage was something you could have some fun with. Some of them were, you know, easier, but like it was something you could like, you know, solo or make a fun gimmicky team for, right? Like everything mattered. Every single gameplay segment in Lostbelt 5.2 mattered. By the way, I don't quote me on this. I've only seen my people on Discord talking about it, but apparently there was an interview or something with Nasu, and they said that the next main story is going to take place before Lostbelt 5. Which, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, they said it's a prologue to Lostbelt 5. I don't understand. It's not, why do we need a prologue to Lostbelt 5 after Lostbelt 5 is over? I don't think it's Lostbelt 4.5. I think because 4.5 kind of would, like, I think that's going to be an event, right? They kind of, because most of the .5s have been an event. They said this was going to be a prologue to Lostbelt 5. Not that it's like a story that takes place between 4 and 5. It's like it's pretty much part of 5, but it's a prologue to it. I don't understand. Why do we need a prologue to a story we already finished? I don't think anybody looks at Lostbelt 5 and is like, that wasn't a complete story. Lostbelt 5 was a very complete story. I would say it was the most complete story they've told in ages, and it was really fucking good. Right? I'm not wanting for more Lostbelt 5. It's done. It was good. You did a good job, boys. Okay, let's move on. Why are we doing like an epilogue? Sure, right? I could see an epilogue because that would kind of lead into the next story, right? That's moving forwards. Why are we moving backwards? This is the first time we've had a main story that's moving backwards. I am so confused, right? Like we've had events that go backwards, and that's fine. I don't mind events going backwards in time. That's okay. They're not part of the main story. They're a side thing. If you want side stories that cover time gaps and shit, that's okay. You know, like you know, the Labyrinth event actually takes place before Lostbelt 4 and stuff like that. That's fine. They've got a lot of that in the events where they take place before, like Summer 3 takes place before I think any of the Lostbelts, right? Again, that's fine, no problem. But we've never had a main story that's going back in time like that. It's not like we're going back in time as like a gameplay thing or our story thing. We're getting in a time machine or something. No, it's like we're just going to be, the viewers just going back in time. Like I don't. Presumably, anyway. I don't understand. If we get Sane Herc out of this, then it's worth it. I'll say that. If we get, I'll take anything if it gets us, Sane like Saber Hercules or Archer Hercules or Rider Hercules. I'll take it. But if it gives us like Avenger Hercules, then fuck it. But if we get Sane Herc, I'll take all my complaints back. But still, I would rather get Sane Herc and actually move the story forward. Like. I don't get it, man. Like, they're stalling. I don't know why they're stalling. They've already said they've, written the outline for 3.0, so what's the point? I don't get it, man. This sounds like PR to me. The nice thing to do is take people at face value, but I find with companies, when you take them at face value, you just get the sheep pulled over your eyes constantly. I'm happy enough to take, someone in my chat at face value or someone I meet on the street at face value, but I'm serious. When it comes to major companies, when you take what they say at face value, you're almost always being lied to. I wish I was kidding. I mean, EA and Activision, they're always lying. Always. And they get caught constantly. It's insane. They just cannot put out a truthful statement, right? If they fire people, they have to PR bullshit it. If they delay something, they have to PR bullshit it. If a game sucks, they just can't tell the truth worth a fuck, dude. Like, it's so rare that big corporations can just be straight shooters. I don't trust what they put out ever because it's almost always a PR spin. Almost always. I can't stand it. Because what they're saying is they're like, oh, the 2.0 just, we couldn't lay this is what they said, something according to my Discord people. I did not look into, sometimes this is bullshit, this could be nonsense, maybe this is all nonsense. I did not verify into this. But according to the people on my Discord, in the interview, they basically said, what was it? Like, the scope of 2.0 is too big, and they couldn't properly lay down the foreshadowing and groundwork with just Lostbelt 6 and 7, so they need all these, like, filler stories. That's basically what they said, and that just sounds like absolute horseshit. That sounds like so much horseshit to me. I don't buy that, and again, it's rude to not take someone at face value, but like when it comes to these corporations, they lie so much anyway. We'll see in hindsight. We'll see will all this side story nonsense actually have been necessary to tell a coherent story with the meat of what 2.0 is, or are they milking it? And right now, I think they're milking it. I really do, because I think Lostbelt 5.1 was milking it, right? I think Lostbelt 5 in totality is a good story, but the way they divided it, I don't think that was necessary. I really don't. And a lot of the other stuff that they've done, like with the side stories and events, I think is just, they're not necessary. So I really think that's bullshit. We'll see, and if it's right, and I'll eat my words, and that's that. But that just sounds like, them not wanting to say the truth. That really is what it sounds like. Because they were like, yeah, Lostbelt 6 and 7 is just not enough time to like lay the foreshadowing and groundwork for the scope of the story. And I'm like, that sounds like nonsense. Muramasa will probably be summonable somewhere around Lostbelt 6, I would think. But you gotta remember, the anime openings aren't always necessarily completely accurate, and sometimes they're kind of just taking the major characters and throwing them on screen. His major outing might be in Lostbelt 7. He'll probably be in Lostbelt 6, but that may not be his moment, right? He's gonna probably be rated up roughly around when his moment is, unless your name is Odysseus and then it's like a month later. But, so probably Lostbelt 6, but it could be 7 or some other time. Yeah, they've said there's gonna be a part 3 so many times. I don't know why this is in question. Like, I remember when everyone was acting like the game was gonna end with 2.0. Literally the next interview, they made it clear that they were working on 3.0 already. And yet we still think that the game is ending and shit. I don't understand. Now, the focus of it is probably gonna change and things like that, and Natsu is probably gonna not be as involved. At first it sounded like he wasn't going to be involved at all, but now it sounds like he just can't separate himself from his baby and he's still going to be involved. Because he first was like, yeah, I'll probably not, be involved after 2.0. That was kind of what he was implying. He didn't say that, but that was obviously what he was implying in that one interview where everyone thought the game was ending. But then literally a few months later in the next interview, he was like, yep, I'm already working on story outlines for 3.0, boys. It's like, okay, he's clearly not actually removing himself from the process here. I think he'll be in it less, and I think he already has been in it less. I know he wasn't involved in Epic and Remnant much at all, so I suspect he won't be involved in it as much. But I think he's still going to be involved to a degree because I don't think he could be not involved if he tried. I think he's one of those guys where he just can't not be involved. And I mean, fair enough. It's his baby. He gets to do whatever the fuck he wants. They haven't really confirmed who the main writers have been for any of the Lostbelts, and they generally do that for all of the stuff, and a lot of times it just gets out and people find out. But as far as I'm aware, with the major Lostbelts, they haven't said who's written each one. Like Natsu to a degree has been involved with all of them, but I don't think he's been the direct writer of any of them. But maybe he was the direct writer of one of them. We just don't know. The one time they normally say though the writer is when it's Natsu. Like normally they don't say. The one time that they come out and say who the writer is, it's when they think it's someone of note. Yeah, like Butcher Boy there. They will say when he does it because that's like a selling point. And like when Natsu wrote Camelot, they made a big deal out of that, and they kind of publicized that was happening. But for a lot of the stories, they don't actually publicize who the main writer is. And sometimes there's more than one writer, but normally there is one main writer. And sometimes it just gets out because like the writer might say things on Twitter or whatever. Like sometimes it gets figured out, and sometimes it's obvious because of writing style and shit like that. But some of them we just don't know. Like some of them we just don't know who the fuck wrote them. But there are several that we do. And again, there are several where they actually do tell us, but they're very inconsistent about that. Yeah, basically anytime Natsu's been a major part of any of the stories, they've always made a show of it. And same for Butcher Boy there. They might have done it like one other time that I can't think of off the top of my head, but other than that, they normally keep it under wraps. Yeah, he's been responsible for several. Actually, I think it might be. Is it a she? I don't remember. I know one of the stories I did not like came out that it was a she, but I'm really bad at remembering random names of writers that I don't like really keep up with. So I kind of confuse which one is which. But I want to say that whoever the writer of Septum is, I think is the same writer for London as well, and then like something else that I don't remember. Because I don't like London either. I think London is a mess, and I think it does a lot of the same pandery bullshit that Septum does, and it's really underdeveloped. I think London has some serious problems in the writing department. I think the setting is cool, and the fact that it kind of alludes to the main story with Guadia and everything, and kind of starts getting that ball rolling is nice and everything. But I think the actual handling of London is crap. I think it's very bad. It's unfortunate, I'm not trying to hate on the writer, and Shimosa's better. I don't mind Shimosa. Shimosa's better. And I think some of the problem is I don't think it's fair to blame all the issues on the writer. I don't think that's right, because if you look at early FGO, there's blatant problems in just the amount of effort and time and budget and care that they put into it, and like in formula. There were certain things they were forcing the writers to do. Natsu has talked about this. He didn't say that specifically, but they were basically saying in the early days, they didn't think it was okay to go for more than 5 minutes without fighting something, right? They said that, right? And then like now they've discovered that the fans like it when the story is just the story and they go for however long is needed without fighting and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, I was really surprised by that stuff. That's something they've said. So all of the writers were being, kind of forced into this really, basic bitch kind of storytelling style. And I remember in the really early days, Natsu didn't even want the stories to be that important. I remember he said this so long ago that he didn't want Fate fans to feel like they needed to play Fate Grand Order, right? And you can kind of tell in the early stories, they're just so throwaway, right? So a lot of the problems, I don't think it's fair to blame on the writers entirely. A lot of the problems are just FGO problems, right? And they started to get better around America. They still didn't, turn that around completely, but as of Lostbelt 1, I would say their kind of story format is really good now. So truly, I don't really want to throw anyone under the bus until like, you know, Epic of Remnant or Lostbelt and on, because that's when they started getting a lot better. Everything before that I think is pretty forgivable, and it's not really their fault. Because like I do think Shimosa it's not perfect. It's not my favorite story by any means, but I think Shimosa is, if that's the same writer for Shimosa as London and Septum, I think it's blatantly better. Like maybe the setting's not so much to my cup of tea, and it's not perfect. I definitely think Shimosa's got a few problems, but just in terms of the way the story is communicated to the audience, I think it is blatantly better. You know, it's still not my favorite, but. And like Fate Prototype, I've always said I don't like Fate Prototype as much as regular Prototype, but it's fine. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's so much better than Septum. Septum feels like the writer basically didn't care, and they may rightfully not have cared, because I feel like DW at the time didn't care, and it was like a quick project, you know, quick buck, not putting that much effort into it. That's really what Septum feels like, and that was probably the context of it. So it's not really fair to expect them to have done better than that. And then like. You know, a quick way to you know, make something do well is try to pander to what's popular. And I think like, oh, Nero's so popular, we're just, you know, suck Nero's dick and it'll be great, guys, right? And that's kind of what Septum feels like. I think if they revisited it now and they actually put proper time and effort and money into it, I'm sure the same writer could make it much better, I would think. Because yeah, I mean, early stories are just terrible, dude. Because in London, it's kind of like, oh, okay, that was so bad. Robin just died with his NP, and he went from like, did they just triple attack Robin? Is that what just happened? I was looking at chat, and then Robin was gone. Like, what the hell? Game, please. No, I'm trying to. I should have just NP'd then. I should have just NP'd somebody and gotten the value. I don't know why chat always freaks out every time I say that. It's a figure of speech, and it's a rather obvious one. And you know, Nero in actual history was obviously a guy, but everyone acts like this is the most insane thing anyone's ever said. Yeah, he just used, he just faded into the, you know, stealth mode, and that's what's happening. Obviously. You know, I bet you there are some people that don't realize there's probably some guy out there that has done no history research really on like Roman stuff, and got exposed to Nero through FGO and never doesn't, you know, keep up with things, and just doesn't realize that Nero's a gender bend. Okay, these guys are assholes, and I regret so much that I did not use Robin's NP. They're killing people left and right. This is ridiculous. I underestimated the boars. At least Ku is safe. He's got the 3 hits, the heal, the high health bar, the guts. I'm not worried about Ku going anywhere, but if I don't kill it this turn, someone's gonna get deleted. Oh my god, we used Masashi's NP. I don't fucking even. Did I say Masashi? I mean Ushi. Dude, I'm tired. I wonder at this point if there's more gender-bent females than not. I know originally it wasn't like that. For a long time there was more legitimate females than gender-bent. Gender-bents actually weren't common at all. They're actually still not that common, but they've definitely become a lot more common. Like for the longest time, man, there really weren't that many gender-bents, but shit, FGO has a lot of them now. It really bothers me. I've always said it's like if you're gonna gender bend, use all the legit females first. Like, god damn, there's a lot of really awesome, like real life, you know, real females in history and legend and stuff that they're just ignoring. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's no, we have no back row. That's great. This is not good. I've used all my single target NPs, and now we just have an AoE one. We have blatantly not managed this correctly. This is where we'd be better off if our entire team was dead, so we could just get Ku's NP really fast and win that way. But now, because we're gonna have to, by the time my teammates die, we won't have that much value left on Ku, right? And we might not have our NP either. Yeah, for the longest time, it was really, it was pretty much just Fate Extra and Fate Stay Night, and even those stories had way more not gender bent characters than gender bent. Like, not even close. Like, I mean, it was a landslide that there was hardly any gender bends, right? And then a lot of the other stories didn't even have any. But yeah, now it's not really like that anymore. This is not good. We might seriously lose. I wish Tomoe had died there so we could have had access to our deck, because we're just slowing down our NP gain here. God, please don't. I really blame Robin for this, though. Robin just getting deleted like that was just such a massive hit to our value. Like, that was devastating. We're fine, though. Projection of Arrows comes back. Yeah, we're good. Wait, I shouldn't have done that. I don't need normal card damage at all. I should just done Arc quick. Like, there's no need for normal card damage. My MP will absolutely kill him or what. Really unfortunate that he just killed us that turn, though. I mean, it's not gonna matter, but that was really unfortunate because we could have easily lived one more turn there. Not much point in doing this now because we're obviously gonna get our NP anyway, but let's not leave anything to chance, shall we? Robin went out for a drink. Let him be. Having a good time without us, eh? Leave us to fight these fucking boars. I wish we had Mori, man. The account doesn't have him at all, and actually, did I get him? Did this account exist when he got his second rate up? Because if it did, I feel like I would have rolled on that, but I feel like I made this account after that. But either way, he's not leveled even if I did have him, so. I tell you what, man, I need to do Lostbelt 2 on an A. I keep not doing that. And the reason I'm not is because I need to record that Ziggurat MP with the red eyes and everything. I need to, get that done and sorted. I need to record it with sound effects, without sound effects, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I need to do that. You made this in Summer 3? I think I made it a little bit before. Oh yeah, Summer 4. I made it like just before that, I think. Robin is one of my favorite paid characters, honestly. I really like him. I think his characterization has been great. I don't think he's always used well in the stories that he's plopped in, but his actual like backstory, characterization, personality, voice acting, all that stuff is fucking great. And I was just so happy because Robin Hood is one of those famous legends that, we don't, we know a lot about it, but there's so much we don't know about it. We don't know where it came from. We don't know its origin. My God, the oldest reference to Robin Hood is so confusing. It's really wild. And so there's like, it looks like at some point it was used as more like a title instead of a person, but then it kind of got used as a person, and then different people were kind of described as the same legend and all that. It's one of those just convoluted bullshit, what the fuck, situations that, unquestionably was definitely, its source was a lot of different things, and different people and that kind of thing. It's one of those, right? And they represented that so well in Fate because they say there's, he's just one Robin. There's multiple Robin Hoods that are kind of, different takes on the different versions, the different stories, and they're straight up different people. That's so accurate to how the actual history is, right? So I'm so glad they did that, and then their take on him was really nice, and he's a really good character and everything. So they did a really good job at that. And then the whole meeting tree thing they did really good with. Like they done good with Robin, man. That was one of the times that they really, really did a good job. Yeah, basically what Rex said. It's like obviously the first mention we have of him was not his first mention because they mentioned him as though it was already like a folklore. It was already a known thing because it was like the something Plowman or I always forget the name of the book. It's like the Pierce Plowman or some shit. And the book is, or the fairy tale or poem or whatever the hell, it's not about Robin Hood. It's just one of the characters within it refers to, like, I've memorized this just like I've memorized the 7 tales of Robin Hood, right? We have no idea what the fuck he was talking about. We don't have those 7 tales of Robin, or the 7 rhymes of Robin Hood or some shit, right? So he just says it matter-of-factly like that. That's the oldest recording we have of Robin Hood. And so it was obviously already a thing, you know. So it's clearly something that's just gone through the ages and been all over the place, and different things have been prescribed to it. So it's one of those. And there's a lot of things in history like that. I was talking about that on Discord earlier. It's like a lot of people think a lot of things are like set in stone, and we know there is so much crap in human history we don't got a goddamn idea. And what I get annoyed with is a lot of time our quote-unquote best guess people take as fact. And a lot of times, and my brother showed me this, like he would just straight up show me like where the actual knowledge we have on these things is. A lot of times, whatever our best guess is, it's based on bullshit, right? It is so flimsy and weak. Sure, maybe it's true, but it's so weak, right? Like, so often our, like, best guess is based on some lot of fucking guesswork, right? A lot of, like, you know, reading between the lines nonsense, and it's like, this isn't so great, right? And I dislike when historians or teachers or textbooks or whatever try to pass off our best guess as fact. It's bullshit. There's just so much stuff in our history that we got nothing, right? We're like, maybe we got like, yeah, this is clearly, you know, connected to this, but we don't know why, and we don't know like what else it's connected to, and we don't know where that came from, and we don't know how old this is. We don't, like, good God. And the amount of holes in our history it's sad. It sucks. We have humanity's been around for a while, and we got some pretty interesting stuff going on, and it's sad that so much of it has been lost. And don't even get me started on all the book burning and libraries that were lost over time. You know, that's wrecked our knowledge on history, and that's never coming back. That's why book burning is honestly a lot of times considered one of the worst things you can do. It's, you know, you could potentially be destroying knowledge forever for the rest of, you know, time for, like, you know, for short-term gain or whatever, or your own personal vendetta, which is just stupid, right? Like, that stuff is so dumb. And like, oh my God, there were like sieges where like the leader of the people sieging a town or a fort or a harbor or whatever, they were like aware that something was in the city that was more important than themselves in their own era, like a historian or a mathematician or a library. And sometimes they were able to protect that and not, you know, fuck it up. But there were times where like the leaders would try to make sure their men wouldn't fuck it up, but they fucked it up anyway, and they would kill, like, you know, some, you know, famous historian or you know, burn a library or something. And it's just like, God fucking damn it, dude. Like, there's been several times. Oh yeah, Alexandria is a great example of that. I mean, dude, good God, there's no telling how much we lost because of that. Or we're never getting it back. You know, it's just gone. We're never getting that back. And there's been several instances of that where, like, libraries, historians, mathematicians and stuff were killed or burned or lost and whatnot. And it's so sad, dude. Like, much yikes. Yeah, from what little we know of Alexandria, it's safe to we know we lost a lot. We don't know because obviously we don't have the information. We don't know exactly, but due to like what was said that was stored there and kind of where the civilization was at the time and everything, it's estimated that we lost you know, a good 1,000 years of knowledge and history and innovation and all those things. So it's like, that is the stupidest shit ever. Yeah, basically what Manic said. That Maniac. That kind of shit. You know, just whoops, it's happened. Yeah, it was very common that you'd have leaders and whatnot would try to, you know, respect scholars and mathematicians and historians and stuff, and try to not get them killed and stuff, because they're more valuable than, you know, the city is, or, you know, your own reign is. But unfortunately, it didn't always work out. And there were some rulers out there that also didn't have those, didn't share that sentiment and didn't give a fuck and would happily, you know, kill whoever the fuck. Let's get some Lancer Artoria Alter in here. That's the stupidest name in fucking history. But am I the only one that just to this day thinks it's insane that we got Lancer Artoria Alter before we got Lancer Artoria? Like, I cannot be the only guy that just still to this day finds that the stupidest fucking thing. London, by the way, and she had no characterization. She has no characterization. She is the most wasted thing in London. I mean, there's a lot of wasted things in London that are just kind of there, and there's no characterization or exploration or character arc or, you know, but she's just there. It's so bad, dude. It's so fucking London. That's London, man. Nothing was used well in London. No one had good characterization in London outside of maybe Guadia. Like, it's just, everything was really bad. We'll probably see her again at some point. I'm sure they're aware of that. It's just like a Lostbelt 1. I mean, you can't... It is obvious. They used Lostbelt 1, like the characters they chose to put there and whatnot. They were trying to give a better shake for some of the stuff from America, right? Because both Billy and Beowulf were in America, and they both were used so badly. And like their abilities weren't respected or any of that. And it was obvious that they kind of went out of their way to make sure they gave them a fair shake and represented their abilities properly and gave them characterization. And, you know, they got the king stuff and all that, right? Like, and so they're probably going to do that again at some point, I would think, for some of the other characters that they are aware got shafted. I don't think anyone would think Lancer or Artoria did not get shafted. She got super shafted. Yeah, I know, but honestly, because of like the way they marketed them, I don't think they can, because they didn't market them like Arjuna and Karna, where they're limited now, but they'll be unlimited later. They originally marketed them that way, so it wasn't false advertising, it wasn't false urgency, right? Where if they advertised Mori or whatever as limited, and then he's not limited later, that was false urgency, right? And that you can't do that, so it's probably not going to happen. Now, they are allowed, I'm pretty sure, to add them in another capacity. Almost always, if you look at the way FGO words their banners in the Japanese version, a lot of times they say, you know, this character could return in a limited banner again or in a similar fashion. They always say crap like that. And so they're still allowed to do things like, you know, main interlude and crap like that. Now, I would imagine there's probably a few banners in the early days of FGO where they didn't word it that way, and maybe they can't get away with it. But if you look at the way that they word most of their banners, they generally word it that way, where they're like, it's limited, but it may return in the future in a similar or, you know, some capacity or whatever. So they can still do it to some degree, I would imagine. But Asclepius and Antonio are not that hard to get, though. Story locked is a million times easier to get. If you actually want them, you just dedicate, you know, a good chunk of SQ and roll story until you get them. And it, you know, yeah, it's going to take 300, 400, 500 SQ. You know, it could be a bit, especially if you want to get them at a decent rank. But you can at least do that, right? You can. It's not that hard to save up that much SQ. You know, you got a month or two or more, depending on what kind of events are going on, right? It's going to take months. It's going to take months, but you can do it, right? You can actually do it. It's not where with the limited ones you can't. I mean, look at this account. It didn't take this account that long to get a lot of the story logs stuff. That's because I only rolled story, obviously. But you know, if you like Bedivere, for example, and you're like, I want to get Bedivere, you can do it, right? It's not that daunting of a task. It's not like rolling story trying to get Coolter, right? It's not like that at all. All right, let's get Hans in here. Get some crits going. Let's get our pathetic Stargen per turn CE, but it's the only one we got. I wish I knew what level it was, so I knew where to look for it. Wait, did this account? I think this account got it. I know the 1 to 3-star account got it. Maybe this account didn't. Or I didn't. Fuck, maybe I didn't get it. Shit. Well, I mean, the thing is, this account doesn't need it as much because they will add a 5-star Stargen CE eventually. They do at least one a year. So, where the 1 to 3-star account can't use it because it's not a 3-star CE. So this account not getting it doesn't matter too much, but in the short term, that's unfortunate. I mean, if you like, I think Asclepius is worth rolling rolling story for. He's worth it. But if you're a big fan of like Saber War stuff, like Space Ishtar or whatever, then I would wait and then do it after. Like save up, try to get Ishtar first, and then once that rate up is done and over, then maybe do story and try to get Asclepius or see if they're going to rate him up again or something like that. But the thing is, I really stand by this. If there's a lot of stuff in the story pool that you like, it's not that bad to roll story. You're going to get some craft essences out of it. You have just as much chance of getting spooked by a 5-star as any other time. Sure, the 5-star is going to be random as hell, but, you know, it's not that big of a deal. If there's a lot of stuff in story that you like and you want, like, oh, yeah, I want Bedivere, Asclepius, and Columbus and those things, it's not that big of a deal to roll story. It's not like you're not going to pull good things from it. You know, most of the best CEs in the game are in the base pool, and you're more likely to get them because generally the rate up craft essences are trash. and they're in the way, and they're making it harder to get the good base craft essences. A big reason why a lot of people don't have MLB K-Scope is because they never roll story. Story's the best time to get it, because generally the other rate ups, the other CEs are rated up, and you're gonna get those CEs instead of K-Scope, right? Always Drake gameplay wise, she's extremely good for farming, and she's perfectly acceptable for like AoE challenge quests and whatnot, but she's not like god tier or anything. There are certainly better things out there, but she works just fine. Like in my 1 to 3 star videos, or when I occasionally do like throw in an A4 star or whatever, and like AoE challenge quests, if I could just slap Drake on the team, it would be very helpful, right? Like a lot of the tougher AoE challenge quests, if I could just casually slap a Drake on the team instead of some random 3 star, because she has a 50% battery and she can crit and all that kind of stuff, and she's gonna hit pretty hard. It's like, yeah, this would be really helpful. Is it more helpful than things like God Juna and stuff? Probably not, but she still works just fine, and sometimes that 50% battery is just what the doctor ordered. And for farming, she's awesome because she doesn't rely on needing a Waver or a Merlin or a Caster or a Toria. You can so easily get a big NP out of her with no help from anyone, and that can allow you to do setups, you know, when you don't have access to some of those better supports, or you don't want to use those supports, or you need to use your support for something else, or whatever. So certainly good farming unit, and perfectly usable for more challenging content, but not like a top tier challenge content unit, but definitely a top tier farming unit. I would imagine it's pretty fun to have Drake if she's your favorite character, because she's even good enough that if you really like her, you can use her in single target situations because of the crit nonsense. And yeah, you're gonna have to use stronger supports to make up for the fact that she's AoE and all that. Like, you're not gonna just slap Drake on a team in a single target situation and have her work, but she's usable. Like, if you wanted to be the Drake guy and use Drake all the time, she's very usable in a lot of situations, and she's got the animation update and everything, so that must be nice if you're a big Drake fan, considering that she's, you know, she's a very usable servant in a lot of situations, right? So she's not one of those like really niche people that you only get to use, you know, every once in a while. It's not like that at all. I really need to level Leonidas at some point. I think I forgot to put Hercules on that previous team, which means he didn't get Bond. That's a big no-no. I like how for some reason I'm using that instead of K-Scope. How usable is a Bartholomew, Black Bart? If he's not grailed, he's not that usable. He's almost strictly for farming, especially enemies that don't have really high health. He can do like scatty looping and stuff for farming and whatnot because his hit count is decent, but his damage is not great. So yeah, he's okay for farming. He's not really good for challenge quests at all. Now, if you grail him, that definitely helps, and he'll work pretty well for farming and whatnot. And definitely, again, not a top tier farming unit or anything, but he's usable, especially for scatty kind of setups. And he's got some, you know, degree of support stuff, but it's not really that helpful. Overall, he's really not that good of a unit in my opinion, but he's certainly usable. It's not like he's shit. It's not like trying to use Phantom, right? Like the Phantom guy or guys, like suppose now, you know, they have to work pretty hard and jump through hoops to make Phantom get anything done, right? Black Bart's not like that. It's not nearly that bad. I mean, he's no god tier low star, certainly not. But if you like him and you grail him, you can make him work. It's certainly in AoE situations. And he does have some niche use in farming, like no question. But yeah, he's not like some top tier shit or anything. Which is unfortunate because his design and voice actor is great. His design is really good. Like, his design is really good. And it actually references a lot of real life stuff about him that was really well done. I tell you, it's rare that my brother actually messages me about a character he sees in Fate, and he's like, yeah, this is really cool, and that was one that he did. I didn't even ask him about it. He was just like, yeah, wow, they did pretty good on this. You know, it's still anime, but it's really rare if that happens, and that was one of the few times that he did. Like, they actually remembered his cross and stuff like that, and they actually did it right. Yeah, an NP buff would certainly be handy for him. Yeah, Phantom is just, you know, he's got a lot of problems. It's not really about being historically accurate. It's not that at all. People characterize people like me and like my brother like that all the time. It's not accurate. You know, me or my brother are not looking for Fate to be super historically accurate. You want it to be authentic. It's a big difference, right? You want it to at least be based on the thing. Most people, like the mindset that I have and stuff, they want it to be anime. You know, it's Fate's Stay Night and all that shit. You know, you're not expecting just a copy paste of history. You want the anime. That's fine. You know, but you don't want fan fiction that's just not based on anything. Right, they got some servants that are basically their thing in name only, and they have absolutely no reference to what they're based on in any meaningful capacity. And it's kind of like, well, what's the point of that, right? Why did you name it that thing if it has literally nothing in common with that thing, right? That there's no point, right? You want to, it shows a lack of effort. Again, it's not about realism. It's about effort, and it's more interesting. A lot of times, you know, I haven't seen a lot of Shadiversity stuff yet, but, you know, my chat was telling me about him, and I didn't finish the video yet. It was, you know, quite long, but I'll try to. But, you know, I was watching him, you know, talk about, you know, the design of, oh god, what was it, Winterfell from Game of Thrones, and, like, what the more realistic take is better. It's better. And generally, a lot of the mistakes that they make when they're designing these things, or when the fight choreography is being done, it's not done for budget or for style. It's done out of ignorance. And because they can't be bothered to learn anything, or to just ask, you know, get a consultation from an expert or something like that. You know, a lot of fight scenes, you know, people aren't, when they're really unrealistic and stuff, people aren't asking for, like, some super realistic fight scene. They're just asking for it not to be fucking stupid, right? Like, because it doesn't look good. You know, it's like, I'm totally fine with stylized fights that aren't super realistic, but I want the combatants to be capable and competent, and you know, have strikes that, you know, actually make a degree of sense and would actually be a threat to the other person, right? Like, that's not asking for too much. I'm not asking for, like, a pure MMA fight on screen or something, or a street fight on screen, right? That's not what they're asking for. It's okay for fantasy castles, for example, to, you know, not be a complete copy-paste of real castles and shit, but it's really nice when they incorporate some logic, right? It's like, yeah, you can have your fantasy elements, your magic, and maybe it's in a ridiculous location or whatever, and you got some, like, you know, aesthetical choices with the way, like, the design of the buildings and everything, the architecture is done. That's fine. But, you know, it's nice when you have some, like, logical stuff, like, oh, because they're using this kind of architecture, they need to do this, that, and the other, and you still make sure the walls make a degree of sense, and that's fine. Like, it's not hard. Like, I stand by this. From what Shadiversity I saw, it's like his take was better in terms of this is entertaining and realism, right? His take was just better. Right? So I'm like, it's like, and that's almost always the case. Normally when you see an expert, like, consultate, you know, give advice and stuff about how to make a fight scene better, how to make a castle better, how to make, you know, they're completely capable of still allowing for the fantasy and allowing for the fun and the style, but then just putting in enough authenticity in there that it's like, you know, it's a lot more believable, and it's like a nice nod, and it looks good, because overwhelmingly those things, you know, look better and stuff. I've always said this, you know, Jackie Chan and a lot of, like, those Asian action movies, they're not being fully realistic at all, but the people in the movies doing the choreography and doing the action are capable. They know the rules, so when they know how to break them. If you want to break the rules, you need to know the goddamn rules first. Jackie Chan knows the goddamn rules of how to fight, right? And he then can break them at his leisure and in a way that makes sense and still makes a good, competent fight scene. A lot of Hollywood fight scenes, the actors don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're not physically capable. And they have to do all this shaky cam bullshit to cover up that these people are moving around like awkward ostriches, right? So that's the problem. It's not the fact that it's not realistic. It's the fact that these people are amateurs that you're having to do shaky cam bullshit to cover up for, because y'all can't be bothered to understand the rules. Like, I have no problem with, like, Fate basing characters and making them way more anime and that kind of thing, but there's no point in representing, like, Henry V if you're not going to actually base it in some degree on Henry V. Sure, take Henry V and, you know, blow it up to anime proportions and you know, give him green hair or pink hair or whatever the fuck. That's fine. That's totally fine. But if you're not going to actually look into Henry V and understand what he was about and his history and how the world perceived him and what he did, and at least base some of this on that kind of stuff, what was the point of making Henry V, right? What was the point? It's pointless, right? And so that's the thing with me, is it's not about realism at all. It's about authenticity and actually making, you know, shit look good, for God's sakes. And, you know, it actually actually having some, basis in what it's based on. Because again, if you're not actually going to base it on what it's, because I always see people, Fate's never based anything on what it's based on. That's poppycock, absolute nonsense. So much of Fate absolutely has referenced like what they're actually based on, and what, quite a lot. Fate's the Night was full of actually respecting the source material, but still obviously taking liberties. Again, if you want to break the rules, you got to know them first. You shouldn't take liberties with a character unless you understand the character in the first place, and then decide where you want to take the liberties. And because then you can make decisions that aren't stupid, right? Because again, with Jackie Chan, he doesn't make decisions that are fucking stupid generally, right? Like, he's breaking the rules, but he's picking and choosing what makes sense. Here's a good example, is with Paul Bunyan, right? Of course you can break the rules, but one of the things you should not break the rules on is an area that is so fundamentally against what the legend was about in the first place. You want to kind of take the especially because the original design was for a joke. You want to make the jokes based on what the thing was about, and like exaggerate it, or kind of spin it out of control and things like that. Where like the chainsaw thing was just laziness, and they're just referencing being a lumberjack. That's all it's like, being a better lumberjack using a chainsaw, right? That's all they're thinking of. They did not do their due diligence blatantly on Paul Bunyan, and that's obvious because you have all the nonsense with the Bond CE and everything else, right? It's kind of obvious that there wasn't a lot of effort put into that. And to be fair to the original creator was never intending for his design of Paul Bunyan to be used in any serious capacity whatsoever. So really, I have no real qualms with that. It's more that FGO decided, that's the one we're going to use, right? That's the problem that I have, is that the original designer didn't really put any effort into it, and it was just a quick joke, which obviously I don't think was, done that well, but that's no problem. And then FGO decided that's the one they're going to focus on. That's the problem, right? That's just stupid. Because you can break the rules all you like with Paul Bunyan, right? That's fine, but you need to understand Paul Bunyan first so you can make, smart decisions on where it makes sense to break the rules, and then where you avoid doing things like having Paul Bunyan use a goddamn chainsaw, which could not be more against what the core message was about with the character in the first place. Yeah, this music is, ranting aside, this music's just good, I just like to say. Always been a fan. Better than Gingerbread Caesar. At least Caesar does have some nice references, though, to like what he's actually based on and whatnot. And we'll probably get a more standard design for him eventually. They've alluded to it several times, although they haven't in a long time. But that's something they've always alluded to, and hopefully we'll. It's canonical. It is canonical that he has a more, tame design, if you will. So hopefully we see it sometime. Actually, Napoleon too has a lot of stuff based on reality. Like, he was a cannon guy in his younger days. That was absolutely, he was a artillery man. That's why they did that. And they're absolutely focusing on him more in his younger days. And he was not a short guy and any of that stuff. Now, some of the design decisions aren't exactly my cup of tea, and they definitely didn't base his characterization that much on Napoleon, honestly. And I would have preferred they had done a better job with that. But there absolutely are some, it is based on reality to a degree, and they didn't just throw Napoleon out the window and make up a fan fiction. They really did not do that. I see people take Napoleon as one of those kind of servants all the time, and Napoleon is certainly not one of the good examples I would hold up, but I don't think he's really one of the bad examples either. Off the top of my head, and I am positive I will be forgetting some good ones, but off the top of my head, some of the better examples that I've seen. By the way, I forgot to take advantage of my crit gimmick. I literally forgot. I've been in so autopilot mode. I was all like, yeah, I'm gonna crit on like wave 2, do the star thing, and we got Hans for the star gen and for the crit up buff, and then on wave 3 I'll do the NP. I fucking forgot, and now I'm like, oh hey, I should do the crit thing now, so I'll do like, quick, I'll do NP quick, and then crit next turn. There is no next turn. I forgot. Oh fuck. Well, we'll still try to do some last second crit stuff here. See, man, look how much we could crit. We don't need Mozart's third skill right now. She is guaranteed to crit right now, and then she'd be guaranteed to crit again later, right? I can do like, I can crit, and then I could NP, and then I could third skill Mozart and then crit again. Like, man, the value here would be amazing, but I there's not enough time left to do it. We'll try to get some good crit damage here though. No one else has a Buster card, so unfortunately we're gonna be selling her a little short here. You want that first card Buster bonus or a Buster chain, but my god though! Like, look at how minimal these buffs are. Like, Hans' skills weren't maxed, and like, that was a pretty scuffed setup. My god, that's so... Like, honestly, people always talk about Baldy and shit. She can on demand get big boy crits so much easier. Like, fuck, she makes stars, star absorb, and crit up all at once. It's fucking crazy, dude. Her one flaw is her lack of survivability, but she does have enough, you know, oomph to kind of justify that. Surtur 2 is based on a lot of stuff in reality. I'm actually surprised so many people don't. Like, they based a lot of stuff with Surtur on reality. Definitely anime, but honestly, like, if you look at his abilities and all that kind of stuff, and his design, it's pretty spot on. And again, with the interaction with the way he was summoned and everything, kind of makes sense. So it's really not that bad. Again, not one of the ones I would hold up as one of their better examples. But so off the top of my head, some of their better examples. I think Robin Hood was done really well. Samson, for the most part, they kind of fused him with his son, but I mean, overall, I think they actually did do a lot of really good nods to the real thing and making an anime and all that. And even fusing with his son is not that unreasonable. They did share a name. So I think Samson was done really well. I think Billy was done really well. I think Kojiro was done really well. I think Medea was done really well. I think, let's see, there's so many that it's hard to I think Achilles was done really well, honestly. That is Achilles plus anime, right? Like, very much so. That's definitely the anime way to approach that character. That was very good. Let's see, Black Bart was done pretty well. I think Shingon was done pretty well. I'd say Shingon was actually done very well. I think Chiron was done really well. I think Hercules could be done really well, and to what they've alluded to, but they've never really done it. So, like they honestly, there's a lot. There's almost too many to think about. And then there's plenty that I wouldn't say is like, it's not like so well done that I'm like, oh wow, I got, hats off to you. But there's so many, like, yeah, that's fair. It's like, yeah, that's an anime take on this. It's okay. There's a lot like that. I would say the majority is like that. Like, where it's not so good that I'm like, whoo, hats off to you. But I'm not like, oh god, this is horrible, right? I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Zeus was pretty well. I would say Zeus's avatar form was done phenomenally, and I would say his characterization and like the way they had things play out in that Lostbelt, like what he did and everything makes total sense, and that was all done very, very, very well. And his avatar form was done very, very well. His mega form was, total fan fiction shenanigans, but yeah, his interaction with the other characters and like, how he went about handling the White Titan problem was that's all really good. Now, there's no definitive take on Zeus. I've always said that. They're obviously referencing certain styles of him. There's so many takes on Zeus. There is just no definitive Zeus in history. That just doesn't exist. But they obviously picked and chose the ones that they wanted to focus on, and I think they represented those very well. I think his design was fucking phenomenal. His avatar form. And again, his interactions with the other gods and us and the White Titan, it's great, all great. They did very good on Zeus, and I'm not surprised. They weren't gonna. That's just not one you can take liberties with like that. You just can't. You can't be off the wall bullshit, stupid, and it's such a. I mean, I would venture to say Zeus is probably one of the most known names in all human history. It's just nobody doesn't know what that is. Right? Maybe they may not be up to snuff on the specifics, but nobody doesn't know what Zeus is. Nobody. This is such a fundamental, figure in legend and history and everything that's just, you can't not put effort into that one. And they clearly did put effort into that one. They put a lot of effort into that one. Like, even the subtle stuff they had with Hercules, right? Like the little bit that you talked to about Hercules and stuff, man. They did good, man. And the voice actor, my god, the voice actor killed it. I honestly, I've heard that voice actor before, right? I've heard that guy in several things before. If someone asked me who I would want to see voice Zeus in Japanese, I never would have even thought of that guy. But he killed it, man. Like, that was like, wow. Like, he didn't even get that many voice lines because most of it was in text, unfortunately. But every goddamn word that came out of that man's mouth was so perfect. I'm like, okay, this is, that was really fucking good, right? Like, my god. Yeah, they fucking killed it with Zeus, man. That was definitely a good one. Unfortunately, he's not playable for some goddamn. How do you just hold on? I'm literally gonna bring this up on screen. I don't understand this, right? Like, not only is just his design in a vacuum like phenomenal, right? But it's so like it's like similar to Hercules, but not too much. Like it's like the perfect way to make it similar to Hercules. Like, I think it would have been pretty easy for them to have designed Zeus and not even thought about, oh yeah, this is actually Hercules' father, and Hercules has been in Fate a lot. But they literally got the same guy. They got the same guy to design this that designed Hercules. That is such a level of care, and that's that's blatantly not a coincidence, right? I mean, look at this. This is so god tier, right? Like, it's anime as fuck, but it still references the actual stuff really well. You've got the lightning, it looks similar to Hercules. He's almost got that marble statue look, right? Which is so fitting for, like, Greek, mythology and everything. Because that's kind of how humans have remembered Zeus and everything, is through, like, a lot of the statues and everything. Like, this is so good! This is so good! And they don't use it. They didn't use it even once. They didn't, like, I'm telling you, there's a part in the story where you're fighting Zeus in his avatar form. But it doesn't go into a gameplay segment. It just happens in the story, and I think the reason that they did that, why it's only a story segment, it never went into gameplay, was because they couldn't be asked to make this in game and give it animations. Like, oh yeah, we'll just have it be a little thing, and then we'll go into the main fight with the mecha form, and so we don't have to bother, right? Which sucks. This should have it should have at least been an enemy sprite, right? But yeah, the fact that we don't get okay. Yeah, with Ivan, that one I agree with. That one I've heard from a lot of Russian people and whatnot, and people that are familiar with the history and everything. They did not do the best job with Ivan. At least we know there's a regular version of Ivan out there that is probably going to be more accurate, but they'll probably never show us that. I've heard a lot of the. I will say there's a few things to Ivan. It's not like Ivan is complete fan fiction or anything. There's a few things in there, but not much. Ivan, although I like the design, is not really based on anything, and a lot of his personality is not based on much either. A little bit, but they definitely could have done Russia better, and I feel like Russia gets a bad shake when it comes to everything, and again, it's because of their government and their media and our media that people they forget about the people there, right? Like they act like all of Russia is the government, and a lot of their government does things that people aren't a big fan of, and fairly so. But there's a lot of awesome Russian history and stories, and the people don't deserve this, right? Like, really, they don't. Like, on a Baba Yaga, that needs to be better. I mean, that whole witch story is really fascinating, to be honest. Like, that's a pretty neat take on the whole thing, and it's almost like the spookier, older, bigger, badder take on the classical witch in a way, right? It's really good. Like, that really deserves a spot. I'll rest in a minute. I definitely will wrap up soon. I am quite fatigued right now, like, no joke. Have they ever mentioned her in Fate? I think they have. I want to say at some point they have, in something, like in Requiem or in a character material. I want to say that they have, but I'm not sure. But I don't know, maybe they've never referenced her ever, and that feels bad, but badass granny. I mean, it's more like just horrific witch shenanigans, really, but okay, we're finally summoning Zaw's Canis instead of mine. Wait, no, this is Saber's. That's not the time for that. I think they should do Captain Hook. I think that's made itself into the conscience of people well enough that I would not want like a silly take on it though. But I would like a more, because like if you read good God, because a lot of people think Peter Pan was like made up by Disney. It wasn't. It predates Disney by quite a lot, obviously. But the actual stories of Peter Pan and Captain Hook and all that stuff are a lot darker, honestly, and a lot more metal. Like, what's his name? Smee? I think it's Smee's the name. That guy is metal as fuck in the actual stories, man. That would be, I would really be down for a Captain Hook servant man that's like the more badass pirate that we deserve, right? That would, The only badass pirate we have in Fate isn't a pirate. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and the manliest pirate we have in Fate isn't a man and isn't a pirate either. So, you know, it's not great. Like, Columbus is the most badass pirate we have, and he's not a pirate. And Drake is the manliest pirate we have, and is also not a pirate, and is also not a man. So, although I really feel like over the years it has gotten to the point where the saying manly does not refer to men specifically. It's more of like, you know, the attitude and like, you know, a certain vibe and whatnot, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me. So, we really are at that point now, I feel. It's like a lot of people say, like, you know, the guys, like as the group. Like, hey, the guys. I mean, I know groups of women that refer to themselves as the guys, right? Like, that's a thing. It's fine. Who cares? Yeah, dude, badass Captain Hook. I am very down for this. Wait, one turn to use that. I feel like Disney has corrupted a lot of these legends, though, and no one will touch them because everyone thinks they're from Disney. It sucks. I mean, almost all of that stuff is, you know, what's the word? Public domain, right? And, you know, obviously their version of Captain Hook is trademarked, obviously, and you can't use that. But anybody can use Captain Hook. It's not a Disney property, right? Obviously not, and neither is a lot of their old fairy tales and stuff are not. Because, I mean, it's not even fair use, because there's no copyright. Disney cannot copyright Captain Hook or Peter Pan. Or Aladdin, or the 40 Thieves, and they can't. It's not copyrighted in the first place, and they cannot copyright it. They can trademark their versions and stuff of those characters, and you know, so if you start like using the Disney version of Captain Hook and using it as like branding on like you know billboards and shit, that's all. You obviously can't do that. But if you have your own take on Captain Hook, you know, even if it's a pirate and all that, it's fine. Now, there are some properties from Disney that they did make, you know, originally, and those obviously are copyrighted, and fairly so, but Captain Hook is not. I've seen the one with Robin Williams. That's actually not my favorite Robin Williams movie, but I still, it's like, and a lot of it, like, because it's very kids-friendly. That movie is overwhelmingly aimed at kids. I will say Captain Hook in that is like 10 out of 10, though. Like I'm so not up to date with actors. It's like Hoffman. I forget his name. I cannot. That guy did amazing. Like the performance there for just Captain Hook was just fucking phenomenal. But that is by no means like my favorite movie from Robin Williams. But I still enjoy it. It's fine. You know, it's a kids movie like times a million, right? It's not even. It's very kids movie. But you know, the Captain Hook take on that is like fucking amazing. Like, I remember there's a scene, it basically is the best scene in the entire movie in my opinion, and in a vacuum it is so good, I love it to death. It's like, it's been so long, but it's like a scene where like Captain Hook is in his like cabin, and he's kind of depressed, and they're going over plans or some shit, and Smee's there, right? And it's a fairly long scene, and it's like, it goes through a few, you know, beats. And then, you know, Captain Hook tries to kill himself because he's like lost meaning in life, and it's so good. And then Smee stops him, but like he wasn't actually trying to kill himself. He basically wanted Smee to just stop him, right? Like that whole scene is so good, and it's like that's like the best scene in the whole goddamn movie. And that in a vacuum is like really good. But it's been a really long time since I've seen that. But yeah, the Captain Hook in that was really good. But yeah, it is funny. Smee is a very brutal pirate in the actual original Peter Pan stuff. Like a very, very, very bad man, very bad guy. Where in like everything ever that depicts those stories, they pretty much always have Smee as more like comic relief, something like that. Where in the actual thing he's like brutal as hell. Will this kill? Oh god, this might not kill. Because I'm doing a no damage NP, no buster up and everything. I just really wanted the art chain. You know, the animated version of Mulan, I actually think is a pretty good movie, right? You know, for what it is, I think it's pretty good, right? I have not seen the live-action movie, but I've seen reviews of it and like YouTube videos of it, and I do not feel the same way about that one. I'm honestly shocked at how a lot of the decisions they made with like the live-action one. Like, how could they have possibly thought that was a good idea? Like, the main character has no journey. They're already like overpowered as fuck before it starts, and like there's no like there's just so many things that they decided to do in that movie. I'm like, why would you do that? Where like the original movie was like way better. Like I think the original movie is pretty. One thing I really like about the original movie, I didn't notice this until I was kind of looking into it recently because of the shit show that was the live action movie, was like they made the bad guys pretty competent in that. Like for real, like they're. Normally you might make the main bad guy competent, but then like Disney would often make the henchmen like just. I mean, God, you know, fail, right? But they made all of the Huns really competent in that movie. Like from the get-go, they're climbing the wall. They're having no issue. You know, they defeat the army. They're shown to be really capable when he throws them like the doll, and they're able to like pick up on like the smells and shit. Like all of the Huns, not just the leader, are all shown to be very capable, experienced war veterans, right? You know, they're there for business, man, right? And it's not just the main bad guy survives the avalanche, right? Like you don't see that kind of like competent, help for the bad guys and the henchmen very often. That was pretty cool. I like that. You had like the archer guy that was pretty badass throughout and everything. That was nice, man. But yeah, so there was it's a comedy and everything, but that was a pretty good movie for what it was. But yeah, the live action one seems absolutely terrible. And they had like good music and shit. I was listening to some of the literally just a few days ago. I always listen to music. You guys don't understand. I listen to music for everything. I can fucking hate an anime and I'll listen to its soundtrack. But man, some of the music in the animated Mulan movie was pretty damn good. Like the Hun, they have like a reoccurring theme for like the Huns, and it's really good. Like shit, a lot of effort, right? There's a lot of obvious effort was put into that. Where I feel like a lot of the live action stuff does not reek of effort and care. That kind of seems how Disney is these days, though. Oh god, does my chat know the entire song? I don't even know. I swear they probably would try to copyright that nonsense. Man, I just realized she could buff Robin. There's actually a nice synergy here with them. I wish I played this better and was like trying harder, or the stage was harder and demanded it. I would really like a stage where it's like about, you need assassin, anti-assassin, so caster, and you need anti-sabers or archer, right? I would love to make a video where I'm fighting hard content like that and use Sheba and Robin and then like budget supports. Their synergy is really good. They both work with Mozart, they both work with Hans, they work with all that kind of stuff, and they play off each other just fine. You know, and she even makes the crit stars. He makes the crit stars, and she has a crit buff. The synergy here is very real. There's a lot of value that can be had here. Like, seriously, they both have star bomb skills. That's awesome. And then they work with Mozart, who also has a star bomb skill. And then again, like I said, she's got a crit skill and everything. Like, there's a lot of... And she gives him art up and all that. Like, it's nice, man. And they're both single target. It's I would love a stage. I'm sure there is... If I had story replay, I'm sure I could find a stage that was kind of in line with all this, but unfortunately, you know, we don't have that. Okay, this is unnecessary. But the stage is about to end, so I might as well throw in some extra buffs just cause. Cause you know we need 99 crit stars. That was necessary. Probably didn't need the buster up crit there, but. Well, normally you wouldn't think about it because you wouldn't specifically need a caster DPS and an archer DPS. You know, that's a pretty specific class situation. Now, almost every boss fight ever, you know, calls for specific class situations that you may not have seen in a long time or if ever, right? So they happen, of course, but yeah, I've never had them work together before. Do I have a Shiba video? Have I ever used Shiba in a video? I think I used her in Gilfest. But I feel like I haven't used Shiba much in my videos. I should. I really like her character, actually. Dude, her voice lines are great. I was so happy with her voice lines because I was kind of afraid because, you know, she's got more revealing clothing. I thought they might go the thought route, but they did not. And she's a pretty enjoyable character, honestly. You know, again, they took this, you know, she's not based on a lot, honestly. It's hard to make Queen of Sheba because she's not based on a whole lot. She's more of mentioned, but they worked with what they had pretty well, then made it anime and gave her own, like, quirky personality on top of it, which worked pretty well. And so, yeah, like, all of her voice lines and the way she's been in events and stuff is pretty good, so I thought they did really well with her. But yeah, I haven't really used her much. I need to do that. She's not just about the money, though. That's what I like. It's not just about the money. It's more about investment and profit, and it's not money specifically. You know, it's jewels. It's the stock market. It's, you know, it's vendoring. It's trading. It's kind of great. And then she has her own baseline personality on top of that as well. So I think they did really good with that. I can't stall with Shiba. Yeah, she's not exactly a stall unit. And I think they did a pretty good job with the design, you know, the era and region she's based off of. But again, they made it anime and everything, that's fine. So I think they did pretty good. That's definitely one they did an alright job with. Difficult one to do, though, because there's so little to base it off of. But, you know, what are you gonna do? Dude, we need that sheep again. The sheep from Gilfest 2. We need that again. That was some good stuff. Like, his voice actor was pretty great. Yeah, I've never been a Tam fan. That's always a divisive character. I mean, bless the people that like the character and you like whatever you like, but it's definitely never been my kind of character. I don't think that surprises anyone. I feel like anyone that knows me to any degree, like even just like through the internet and everything, surely it's not surprising that Tam is not my cup of tea. That's got to be obvious. Dude, that fucking Golem stage, like what was it? Tam, Mash, and Merlin or whatever. Good God, dude. All right, we'll do one more stage and then we'll wrap up. So if you got any last second questions, now this time. I'll try to stream a bit later. I'll try to take a break and I'll eat and maybe even take a nap for God's sakes. But I might stream a little bit later, do a little bit of Impact. Why what? What? But one more stage? I mean, it's not so bad. But I'm gonna wrap up here. I'm pretty pooped. Dude, I'm glad to be streaming. You don't understand. All of my day up to like when I started streaming was being in my fucking cellar. That was not a pleasant experience. I was not enjoying myself. I distracted myself with just talking to my friends and stuff on Discord and whatnot, but that sucked. That was lame. That was not a good day. I'm glad that's behind me. Although I probably gonna have to do it again tomorrow because, dude. So it's pretty normal to have like, you know, ants this time of year in like your cellar and shit. But I don't understand. Like all the things that I would normally do to get rid of ants out of my cellar is working, but there's so many of them that they're still there. Like, it's crazy. I'm having to divert so much effort into my fucking cellar right now. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I hate having a cellar, by the way. It's awful. It's a pain in the ass. Look, man, Rex is a free guy. He's actually living in like his own, his own place, and then he just, mods here out of pity, and then he just acts like he's been kidnapped. But I mean, he's got his own. He's got his own. What do you call it? He's like it's entrepreneur. That's not quite right. He's got his own empire, to deal with. I like how we're just fighting question mark. Let's try to solo. Let's solo for the last one. Why not? We're talking about Rex, and we were talking about Quetz earlier. Quetzalcoatl, why not? And before the class matchup is just the worst thing ever, and this is like a terrible decision. Look, man, I don't know what Brian's problem is, because we've already had this conversation. I was defending him, right? And I think what was it, Grunt or whatever was all like, I'm his father now, him or me, and I was trying to defend Brian, and then he chose Grunt over me, right? And then Grunt abandoned him, right? And then he just comes crying back to me. This was not my fault, right? I tried, I gave that guy many chances, and he sided. Oh my god, I know what this fucking stage is. I think the snake is the top one. We need to fight the snake. I think I forgot what class it is. Is it an assassin? Oh god, we picked a rider. Oh god. She's super good, but there's no way this is gonna work. Okay, no, it's the wrong stage. Freebie! Okay, what do we, chat, do I reset? Because everyone's gonna be disappointed if I don't fight the Hydra, because it's an actual boss, especially if you don't have like good things to counter it, but Quetzalcoatl doesn't, she doesn't have this. There's no way. I suspect though she could probably get it to half or something. I don't think she would embarrass herself, to be honest, for fighting an assassin. Let me think. What's interesting here? So it's an assassin. I kind of want to fight it with someone at neutral, but like not Proto-Coup. Although I will say this is the one time you get to show Proto-Coup off, right? If you have to fight at neutral, Proto-Cou's your guy, man. He's got all the anti-debuff, magic resist, and he's got the anti-beast. Like he does good. Bedivere, whew. I don't know, man. Bedivere's got some anti-debuff, but not nearly as good as Proto-Coup. And I don't know. Curse Arm? You know what? This might make a good Curse Arm video if he can do it. I don't know if he can do it, but I've been saying for a while I've been wanting to make a Curse Arm video, and if he can beat this, I think that would actually be a good enough to make a good video. So maybe we save this stage. I don't have a Curse Arm right now, but I'll look around and see if I can get one, because my main account's got some Curse Arms on it. So if I beat this, we'll reset, but we'll try Bedivere. Really, Arjuna couldn't do it? I kind of want to try my hand at that. I feel like he's got some problems, but I feel like he's got a... The problem is the NP. The problem is the NP. If he NPs twice, Kid Gil would not have a snowball chance in hell here. He would die in like turn 3, and he would barely have done anything, and it would all be terrible. But if Curse Arm can beat this, which I don't know, he's got the survivability, but I don't know. But I'll try to find 100 Curse Arm, 10, 10, 10. I'll see if he can do it. If he can, that will be a video. I've been wanting to make a Curse Arm video for a while, and I've had multiple people that I know ask me to make a Curse Arm video, so it needs to happen. I've been keeping my eyes out for a good time. But yeah, Curse Arm has no anti-debuff, and debuff is a huge part of this fight. And Curse Arm, he's got okay. A level 100 Curse Arm has an okay damage to survivability ratio. He does. He's It's not shit. It's not. You know, he's got the crits and the NP and all that. Like, his survivability to damage ratio is actually higher. There's a lot of units that have way better damage than him, but their survivability is so much worse than him that overall he'll do more damage than them in the long run. Like, he will. So he's a strong lad, but he's not as good as Protoku by any means. And then Protoku has a niche here. Seriously, 460k at neutral is a tall order. At counterclass, that's a joke, right? That's nothing. But for neutral, that's a lot. And in this boss, it's not like it's 400k and the boss doesn't do anything. This boss is obnoxious as hell, right? This boss has awful debuffs and he has low hit counts and high damage and like this boss sucks and he NPs in 3 fucking turns and shit. Like, it's not great. Accidentally fell asleep in class. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Okay, this hand is... Oh god. If Betavir's capable of doing this, it ain't this run. It ain't this run. I think you need 100 Betavir. You would need one hell of a Betavir, because again, Betavir has survivability problems, so... And we're literally down a turn. The enemy's already about to NP, like... Panic. At least we crit. I mean, we didn't crit as much as I would have liked, but at least we crit some there. Like, it wasn't like a turn that was really that good for critting, but like, it's something. And I live to get... Oh my god. Chat. If I do that Buster card first, you know the one, and it procs Buster up, we will do more damage than if I did NP first Buster. If it does not, we will do less damage. And by a somewhat noticeable amount. So we're gonna lose anyway. Do it? Yeah, okay. We're probably gonna lose anyway. We might as well go for the value. Guys, we're gonna put this in slow-mo. We gotta watch. Dude, this is so bad if it doesn't proc Buster and it proc darts. Okay. That's really bad because the Buster up from our NP is now not applying to that first card, right? So, yeah, that was bad. The dream though, our NP could have had an extra Buster up. I'll probably do it next stream, Arjuna, because I need to wrap up after this run, I think, and we'll save this boss for a little bit, because I want to mess around. This is a good... If you want to find a neutral boss, because, like, you know, sometimes you want to show a unit off in a neutral setting instead of them counterclassing. This is a damn good one to do it in. Like, this is a damn good stage to do. This is not an easy fight to do at pure neutral. Not a half neutral shit, pure neutral. This is a nasty one. So we'll hold on to this for a second. I feel like there's some, I can make a video out of this with somebody. I have enough people that I've been wanting to show off for long enough that I think we can make use of this. Well, I mean, it wasn't quick up. Quick up would have been such a nightmare there. Can you imagine? Man, if I'd done this earlier, I'd have my second skill right now. That wouldn't really save us though, but... He has done art up 3 times in a row, by the way. Come on, don't die. No! If we could have done our second skill and then NP'd again, we really could have had a good showing. I actually think a level 100 Betavir with good command codes, because these command codes are, they're not awful, but they're not amazing either, right? They're kind of like, you know, nice stand-ins. But if we had top-of-the-line command codes, level 100, 2k foe, I actually think Betavir might be able to do that. He'd be pushing it, might get a little lucky, but I could definitely see, I think Betavir might be able to do that. It'd be close, it'd be very close, but... Wait, did I miss Aerie? Aerie has a tendency, oh, Aerie's Betavir, right, yeah, she does have a strong Bedivere, I think. I don't know who has the strongest Bedivere out of everybody I know, though. I know a few people that have got some good ones. But yeah, we'll mess around with that stage. That's a fun one. But I'm gonna wrap up for now. I'll probably take a 30-minute, 40-minute some odd break. I need to rest a little bit, recoup, get some food, and then we'll be back with some Impact. And then tomorrow we'll get back to some FGO, I think. Chat, when are we gonna get new content in FGO? It's been so long. It's been so long, and the last event didn't even have a challenge quest or anything. Like, what is going on? It's been so fucking long, and I legit think the next thing is gonna be a rerun. I don't understand, man. And like the animation updates are really phoned in and everything. Like, it sucks, man. Arcade's over there doing stuff. You know, they're waving their flag around. Look how cool we are, and just it's like, you know, I like Genshin Impact, right? I'm really enjoying it, but I like FGO too. Like, you know, it's my boy, right? I'd like FGO to, you know, kind of step up here. This would be nice, but they're not doing that. But yeah, maybe someday. Okay, boys, we're gonna wrap up. Not gonna rate anybody because I'm just gonna stream again in, you know, 30-40 minutes or whatever for those that want to see some Impact shenanigans. For everyone else, thanks for hanging out. Blah blah blah. Thank God Shimosa's over with. I'm never gonna forgive you all for that. I'll never forgive the chat for that. Anyway, later.